The bitch burned me twice, you see.
All right. We are broadcasting.
All right.
Burned me 2 times.
All right, here we go. Get the giggles out. Come on now, guys. All right.
Oh, like this
Never.
show is anything
All
but poop jokes.
Yeah. All right. All right, here we go. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to That Pixel Life. This is episode 36 for January 3rd, 2019, and we are ringing in the new year by talking about last year, as we're going to present to you our year in review discussion for 2018. We'll be talking about the big moments in gaming from 2018. We're going to be sharing our personal Game of the Year lists, and we're even going to try to debate on our official Game of the Year for That Pixel Life as well. We'll see how easy that goes. We have the whole gang here, so strap yourselves in. Let's get rolling. My name is Josh Faulkner. We have Zach Anderson here. Hi, Zach.
Hi, I'm back. My news of my death has been premature. I'm back.
Yes,
and thankfully survived the holiday season, so I should be smooth sailing for a while now. So.
Rad. All right, we got Shannon Moore. Shannon Moore's here. Hi, Shannon.
Hey, how you guys doing? I feel like it's been like a year since I've seen you guys. So.
Oh, you are a dad.
Technically has.
All right.
I was hoping
Zach,
year.
I was gonna say I was hoping Zach wasn't gonna beat me to the punch. Like,
no. I'll leave the dad jokes to you. It's all good.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, and we have Elena Grimm too. Hi, Elena.
What's up, y'all? Happy New Year.
How are you?
Oh, I'm solid, man. I spent the New Year doing absolutely nothing, and it was lovely. I'm gonna regret it in my 30s. Everybody's telling me I'm gonna regret it.
No, you won't.
No, you won't.
Dude, Papa preach, right? Like I saved so much money yesterday. Buddy.
And you weren't throwing up all morning, so that's always a plus too, right?
No. It was a very quiet New Year, so I was a fan.
Sweet. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Head on over to thatpixellife.com if you guys want more from us, including links that you may be interested in, like following us on Twitter at thatpixellife. If you want show updates, gaming tweets from us, all that jazz. You can subscribe to us on YouTube if you want to watch the unedited live stream recording sessions of each of these episodes as well. You can join our Facebook group there. We can chat to us every day about gaming if you would like. Subscribe to us on Patreon as well if you want to help fund the show and keep it running, and you get some incentives for that as well. And there's also links to every podcast platform we can be found on. So if you listen to it and you're there, we're there too, and you can find those links on our website. So check that out when you get a chance. So we also have some articles that I'm working on that I want to try to get up. Hopefully this week I can get one of them up as well. But there's some stuff that I'm working on, so there'll be some more reasons for you guys to go to that website and read some articles from me and stuff. So look out for that in the very, very, very near future. So before we get started, we want to cover a couple things here before we get into all the fun. And the first thing that I want to mention is that I just want to thank everyone that listened to this show in 2018 and gave us a lot of support, and especially our Patreon supporters who help fund this show and help us pay the bills, every month to keep this thing running. We started out 2018 very rough. We basically had to flee the show that we worked very hard on for years due to other people's poor behavior. And that set us back. And we came back strong in March and started this whole thing. And, a lot of that was because of the words of encouragement from everyone who listens to this show. I know that I personally didn't even really want a podcast anymore after all that happened. I was just kind of done with it. And Zach was over there on my corner, just like, oh, fuck it, let's just do another show. Fuck it, let's just do it. Let's do another show, And I was like, and he's just like, let's make another one. Who cares?
Let's do it.
And And then all these people just came out, and it was just, encouraging us to keep continuing to do this. And it was because of all you guys, the reason why we're here. And of course, Shannon and Elena for hopping on, which took like little to no talking into it all to get them to hop on board and started this whole thing. And we spent the pretty much the entire year just trying to form this into something, that differentiates us from what we used to do before and try to stand out. And I hope you guys are enjoying it. Continue to enjoy it. Do you guys want to add anything to that before we move on?
The only thing I would add is I want to thank everyone for kind of just giving us the room to figure out what we're doing. Because like Josh said, when we began this, it was very much I don't want to stop talking every week about video games, especially with you, Josh. You're one of my favorite people I love talking games with. And so it was, I'm being 100% honest. For me, it was a very selfish motivation in that regard, but it's one of those, like, I wasn't willing to just let those relationships dissipate for no real reason. And because we were able to kind of get our feet back under us, get this thing moving. And the feedback we got from people, like, basically telling us, like, hey, this works, hey, this doesn't, we like it when you guys do this or that and everything. It really has helped form and mold what we're doing now, and still continues to. And I am just very appreciative that people gave us the time to do that. It's one of those things where it makes it easy to do this on a weekly basis when you know people are actually enjoying it. And I know that people are, because they tell us, and that's very appreciated.
Awesome.
That's the thing I enjoy most about working on this podcast is just the community and everybody who's so forward and so honest with us, whether it's, constructive criticism or whether it's words of kindness. It's been such a fun process, so much more fun than I thought it was going to be, because just like you were saying, it didn't take much effort to get Shannon and myself on this. It was like, you wanna? And I'm like, oh my God, I fucking love you guys. Let's go. Let's talk, And here we are, so much later. And, it's been so much fun. It's been such a journey. And I just want to say thanks to, everybody out there and, you three here. And I don't want to get my feels all up in a bundle, but I love you guys, man. I love all y'all. This is going to be awesome.
Honestly, I just want to say thanks, because in the beginning, it was rough for me. Like, I was still trying to figure out get my broadcasting chops in there. So, for you guys to allow me to grow in this atmosphere, I thank you all very much. And, I thank Josh and Zach for bringing me in on this project. I love talking video games. It's like I said many times, this is like my I get to not think about my job and work and all the nasty stuff that's going on there. I get to come out here and have fun with you guys. It's amazing. It's so therapeutic. I love it. Thank you guys.
Cool. Awesome. So we actually have some pretty big changes in the making for 2019, and we want to kind of go over some of them right now. We've been kind of thinking about some of the things that we do really well and some of the things that we feel like we can improve on. And one thing that we kind of identified that we feel like we really excel at is when we really dig deep into like industry topics and kind of debate all that stuff. That seems to be where we have the most fun and where we seem to be the most entertaining, I feel. So we kind of want to expand on that in 2019 and kind of do a lot more of that because we feel like that's what we really do very, very well. And also, one of the things that we feel like we haven't done quite as well is with the weekly consultation segment, how we just we try to cover everything we possibly can. And a lot of those games don't get a lot of love or coverage because we're just trying to play so much. And, I think we need to stop trying to be like these big podcasts where they have the resources and the time to cover every single game imaginable. And then here we are trying to do the same thing, and we're buying all these games out of our own pockets and not putting as much time into them as we need to in order to properly discuss them. And we kind of want to tone that down a notch this year. So we're still very much going to have a weekly consultation segment, but I think we're going to try to focus on more games we're passionate about and try to play those games more as a group so we can talk about them on a deeper level than just spewing off all these random games all the time that we only played for a couple hours and then never touching again. And there we waste our money on that stuff. So that's some stuff that we're going to tighten up this year as well. So look out for that. Also, I'm going to go ahead and give Elena the floor here because she has something she wants to say. So Elena, go ahead.
Hey, y'all, what's up? How's it going? So I just wanted to say when Zach hit me up, and it was Zach who hit me up and asked me to be a part of this endeavor with Shannon and Josh and everybody here, I knew it was going to be something amazing. I really did. But I didn't think we were going to whip up such a sense of community in the short time that we've been working together. It's been an incredible experience, and the TPL Facebook group has grown into something incredible, and I find myself going there very frequently, whether it's to catch up on industry news or shoot the shit with Jordan or Jovic or Mike or whomever, or to laugh at some weird vids or memes that you guys are posting. And I know I've mentioned my job in passing on the podcast a couple of times, and you've probably heard more of like my mindless work rants if you're a patron because you hear the unedited parts, but I've recently gotten a pretty substantial promotion that's got me wearing big boy pants at work a little more than I think I'm going to like, but I'll be responsible for the company after hours more than ever before. taking the phones and closing up shop and just being responsible for the entire company. And between that and going back to school, well, long story short, there's going to be a lot of newness for me in the new year, and you're going to be seeing a little bit less of me in 2019. And I'm sorry for that, but I've got big things on the horizon, and that Pixel Life obviously does as well. And I'm still going to be around, maybe a little bit more behind the scenes, whether it's like lurking in the forums or like posting articles in the Facebook group, or maybe even a guest host here or there if you guys will have me. But I'm going to be mad busy between calls and classes. So either way, like Josh said, you might be seeing some other people in the mix, or you might be seeing, me, or things will be changing in 2019, and I want to be a part of it. But if you hear a little bit less of me, I want you guys to know why. So
yeah. Are you giving me the "it's not you, it's me" speech?
It's not you. It's me.
Lord of God. I always get that. Why am I always the dumpy and not the dumper?
Oh God, I've been on both sides of that, bro. It's not fun either way.
Yeah.
I am not breaking up with that Pixel Life. We are in a committed monogamous relationship, and I am not going anywhere. I got that ring, boo. It's there. It's there.
Well, Elena, she had created this show with us, so she will always be a part of this as a creator of this show. So, but also we definitely want to give her the time to take care of what's important and her education and everything like that. So, yes, Elena will be, popping in from time to time. She won't be here every week anymore, but when she has something that she really wants to talk about, or a game she's real passionate about and she wants to hop on, she'll definitely be there and have the door open for that. So she's not going away completely, but she will take more of a backseat role going into 2019. But Elena, I thank you for everything you've done. And it sucks that our cast won't be quite as diverse as I would like.
For sure.
And not because you're a female, but also because you kind of represent a type of gamer that you don't quite get a whole lot in podcasts like this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That you kind of reach out.
Casual.
Yeah, the filthy cat. And you kind of reach out to those kind of people as well, which helps, kind of round out the cast.
I love you guys. I love my fellow filthies. I love you guys.
Yeah. So.
No, but you're absolutely right. I'll be back, and I'll be, maybe with this school thing, I'll come back and I'll be stronger than ever, a little bit smarter, a little bit more well-versed. And, with this writing certification, maybe I'll be able to write as good as you one day, Josh. Who knows?
That's a low bar to hit.
Oh, fuck. Well, there we go. I guess I'll meet it then.
It's a very low bar to hit.
I'm trying.
But yeah, doors always open. So absolutely. Also, I do want to go ahead and say we just actually got the confirmation today. A lot of people are probably wondering, well, who's going to replace Elena? Well, we got our answer, and Robbie Steltenpole's coming back. So we've been trying to get him ever since we created this damn thing to be more of a part of this. And with his baby and everything, it's been very tough for him. He's now in a better position where he can make that happen. So starting on January 15th, he's going to hop back on the show with us and reunite.
When we started this, Robbie, I think, had just had a baby and was finishing up like graduate degree and like all this other stuff. And he was just like, guys, no, it ain't happening.
How can I get busier than I am
exactly.
now? It's not going to happen.
I'm always going to be the rookie. Somebody lower than me.
No, it's okay, man. When I come back, it's going to be like, you're going to be like, no, Elena, do this. Stop doing that. Do this.
No, you're probably going to be even better too. You're going to be like, no, this is how we do it in broadcasting school. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
and we'd be like, oh gosh, Jesus Christ, here we go.
Yeah,
I don't speak that good.
We'll battle for the rank of the rookie. Don't worry.
All right.
I speak pretty.
Well, Shannon, if it makes you feel any better, you have seniority, so you are definitely not going to be at the bottom. Robbie's going to the bottom of the totem pole. But no, we're really excited to have Robbie back. So I'm sure everyone listening is going to be excited to have him back too. So we're all going to be reunited. So it's going to be awesome. So look out for that in 2019 as well. Yes. Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it because I know everyone's anxious to hear all this from us. So we're going to turn our industry buzz section into just an industry 2018 kind of year in review section. So 2018 has been a pretty interesting year for the industry. We've seen many blunders come out of this publishers this year. Gaming journalism took a big hit in credibility this year, which we'll talk about some more here shortly. And yet we also saw a lot of seeds being sown for what could be the future of gaming as we know it this year. So let's start off by talking about our feelings on the events that occurred in 2018. I want to start with what you guys feel is the biggest single industry event this year that you thought was important to the industry going forward, like that, like promoted growth or put itself in the right direction. And I'm going to start with you, Zach. What do you think?
I actually, I mean, the single most important thing I saw the industry happen this year, there was so many things, but the one that really stuck out to me was Sony leaving E3.
Yeah.
Sony walking away
I didn't even think about that. You're right.
Yeah,
totally, dude. Big deal.
Sony walking away from E3, I think signals the death of E3. I'll be quite honest. I think in 2 years, E3 doesn't exist or is something completely different. And I think it really shows that Nintendo is not the only one now. Everyone is now going to do their own thing. They know they have their own market. They know they have their own audience. They've got their own ways to distribute their messages in a controlled and even manner that is no longer beholden to this timeline that is set out by E3. You know, the people that run E3, I'm blanking on the name of that commission, but they're coming out in support of loot boxes and all this other stuff has made people really kind of recoil from them. And by the major publishers, including the biggest console manufacturer in the world, separating themselves from E3, it really goes to show you that the viability of that is no longer necessary.
It makes me not really want to go to E3 next year.
Exactly. Right? Exactly.
It makes me like, because I've always like excited to try to go every year, and like this year, like I don't even really care. You know, I'm sure I'm everything that is going to be exciting. I'm going to see in a press conference where I can sit and watch at home, and that's it. You know, Sony's not going to be there, and Nintendo is going to have a very small, you know, thing. It's just, I don't really see a reason why to really spend the money to go out there anymore.
Well, but it's not just them anymore. And Bethesda's got their own thing. EA's got their own thing. You know, Ubisoft's got their own thing. Like no one needs E3 anymore. And I think Sony stepping away is a game changer. Sony, that is one of those things where that thing as it has existed will never exist again. And that I think is the biggest story for me of the year.
What about you, Shannon?
Well, Zach took it, but
you have
I'm thinking at least I don't know if it's a story. It's just more I've noticed that there's been PlayStation or Sony in particular has really kind of invested more into their VR campaigns, like their games and their support. So, and not even just Sony, but like you can see a lot more commercials for the Oculus, even though they're kind of going in a different direction.
Which is surprising for me too, because I thought this would be the year the PSVR officially died.
Yeah, and that also surprised me too. Is like when it came out and it kind of had that lukewarm sales. Like, you know, you heard Sony saying that they really weren't surprised with the numbers that they were coming out with for like Sony initially. I thought that they were really going to kind of back away from that, kind of like they did with the Vita and a lot of the other peripherals or the other chances or the other foyers into that like that area that they were going to go. You know, but to see them rally around it and actually bring out games and have developers come up with virtual reality, like you know, with the Tetris effect where they have the modes, or like with Resident Evil 7, you know, it tends to lend a little bit more like life to that system, and a lot more people are talking about it and rallying behind it, and their numbers are improving, and you know, it's selling really strong from what I understand. So that was really a surprise to me in the year. It's just to kind of see that PlayStation VR is still around.
Yeah, they needed a decent price drop and they needed compelling software, and it wasn't until this year that we got both.
And now I want it so bad. Like I didn't even think about this. Like just Shannon, I didn't think about this at all. Like that's the reason I want the PSVR for the first year ever. Like I thought about it in passing as a consumer in years prior, but this was the first year. The podcast probably didn't help much either, but like hearing about the software and hearing how good these games were, and then Tetris Effect just ruined it for me. Like I'm getting a PSVR despite how late in the game it is. It's just a matter of time. And you're right. It's because they were pushing for those. And it sounds like there was some heavy advertising for marketing and stuff like that on, you know, I don't watch much TV, but it's nice to know that they're marketing for that and they're still pushing for it. Cause I was kind of wondering why it just came back from the dead almost. I was like, I want a PSVR again.
I bought one at launch, and after Resident Evil 7 came out and the whole, like, you know, kind of, like the newlywed phase kind of kind of went away. Like I kind of regretted buying that thing. It just sat and collected dust. And I think it's like 2 years old now. I think in 2017 I barely touched that thing. So now we have all these awesome games, and there's some of them that are legitimate game of the year contenders, and that was a big deal. Now I don't know if it's going to continue in 2019 being as strong, or if we're going to see a new headset, or they might back off of this thing and have a new one for PS5. I don't know, but yeah, you're right, Shannon. This has been a really good year for VR. Absolutely. Elena, do you have anything?
It was Zach's, to be honest, man. Like Sony announcing, yeah, dude, no, for real. But in November, them announcing that they were pulling out of E3 like shook me to my core. I don't see it as a positive or a negative occurrence. It just is what it is, because it's gonna, in my opinion, shape like publisher presence from 2019 on, and not just at E3. It's gonna be everywhere. It's gonna shape publisher presence all around, all across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing we didn't mention was Sony finally embracing backwards cross compatibility. I mean, given it was only Fortnite they've done it with.
I'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah, they're finally kind of chipping away at their armor on that, though, and I think that's kind of a big deal. I don't think it's going to like make them like all of a sudden, just say the same as Microsoft and Nintendo as like open arms to it. But at least we're getting somewhere with that, and at least they righted their wrongs, from Fortnite, which I didn't think would ever happen.
Yeah, but we had to fight tooth and nail for that, man. Like we were complaining for months, beating at their door, So, yay, Sony.
I'm actually going to go with Game Pass and the growth of that thing this year.
That's a great call.
Yeah, I think that is where the future is heading for gaming. Maybe not like entirely, like maybe that's not how we consume all of our games, but I think the start of that, the growth of it, and just the fact that we're seeing that it hasn't been a complete failure or a huge money sink for or a money loss for Microsoft, and how they just keep going in more and more and more on it. It has to be successful for them. And
that's actually quite the opposite. I mean, they've made multiple reports how they're making good money with Game Pass, and game sales are actually up because of Game Pass, because you get a discount if you buy the game, so people are spending more on games because of it. So
yeah, and I mean, it hasn't stopped me from buying games, because I bought the $100 edition of Forza Horizon 4. I could have just played it on Game Pass, but I wanted all those extras. I wanted to support the dev, So I mean, not everyone's going to be like me, but just the fact that a lot of games are getting more exposure than they ever would have prior because of this thing, I think is really, really good and healthy for the industry. And Sony is a very kind of Me Too company. They kind of like to jump on bandwagons and do a lot of the same stuff that other people do. And I'm really curious to see if they have their take on this, like coming like with PS5 or something like that. I doubt we'll see it on PS4, but PS5 maybe. And I think that's going to be a really big thing going in the next gen. So that's kind of my take on it. What about something bad that happened to the industry this year as a whole? Do you think there was a single event that you think really kind of hurt the gaming industry? Yeah. Zach, I'll go back to you.
Mine is not a new problem. It's been reported multiple times in multiple generations of consoles. But when the Rockstar work practices story hit, it was different this time. Different in the regard that I think just because we're in this generation of social media and networking and connection that hadn't existed prior, the conversation became very different. The stories of 100-hour work weeks and crunch, and how imminently replaceable everyone at Rockstar felt they were and are at all times. And the talks of unionization and workers' rights and things like that, it felt different this time. It was a negative story, but I think there's a positive to it, because I think this time it seemed to develop more momentum in the past. Like, it's a story that I feel hasn't gone away.
Yeah, and I think it sheds more light on how scary the game industry as an employee is, because I don't think anybody really feels like they have job security in that industry.
Oh no. And it's like, it's one of those things. Why is it just accepted in the game industry that when a game gets released, everyone gets laid off? Yeah, like that's just normal. That's just how it is. And yeah, and I think I'm hoping that this story allows one of these major companies like a Rockstar, like a 2K, like someone that is stable and has a Blizzard, it has like a large sum to be the first to establish workers' rights, be the first to establish a positive culture. Like just one of these big guys needs to be the first one to do it. And I feel like that is coming. For the first time in a long time, I feel like this horribly negative story that's been released is one of the it's actually feeling like it's turning the corner a little finally.
Well,
but
not even for like hours put into these games and benefits and stuff as well, but even like sexual harassment and stuff like that has really had a huge light shed on it. Like with what was going on with Riot, apparently that whole company culture has shifted completely because of all of the people that came forward to complain about the culture of like sexual harassment and stuff like that.
That CEO just sounded like the biggest scumbag.
Oh yeah,
that came off. Yeah. That came off real bad. That was like a real bad look.
Yeah, and I'm no League of Legends fan, but I mean, geez, that made me dislike that game even more, to be honest with you. But I mean, that they're not the only ones. I mean, a lot of stuff. I mean, even Naughty Dog got hit with that this year too.
Yeah,
so.
Yep.
And that's what I was gonna say too. Is like
Quantic Dreams.
Quantic Dream was a big one,
and that sucked too because that came out right as Detroit was coming out. So it's like kind of robbed that game of maybe some legitimate sales that. I don't think it did that game any favors, and the fact that Sony was so quick to try to, kind of sweep that story under the carpet, didn't really give Sony too much of a positive PR spotlight for a while either. So
yeah,
I mean that's mine is just just the overall just the culture, the whole harassment culture that is kind of. But it kind of ties into everything that Zach was saying too. It's just that whole environment of going into developing video games in general just got a big black eye this year. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that needs to change. And I think shedding the light on it the way that it has been over the past years is hopefully going to change a lot of those environments for the better.
Okay.
Honestly, it sounds like it kind of already is changing things for a more positive light.
Yeah, Elena, you sound like you were starting there for a second. I think I cut you off. I apologize. Did you have anything that you want to talk about with this one?
Yeah, it was the very first and actually the only thing that stood out for me when I saw this on the format was the shooting, the Madden shooting in Jacksonville, Florida back in August, and that was the single event in my opinion that just looms over gaming industries 2018 like a bad dream. And it's unfortunate too because occurrences like this are very much a reality, and gaming events worldwide have worked to tighten security measures following the shooting. It's completely shifted the culture. And I talked about this, I think it was EP 20 or 21. And, the industry will never be the same following the Madden shooting. Organizers, gamers, and society, we all have to sit down and face that undeniable truth that these things can happen and they shouldn't, but they can, and they do. And it's something that many esports organizers kind of cited and admit it was somewhat of an afterthought because many gamers, myself included, consider esports events to be a safe space. You know what I mean? It's one of those few big events where you aren't patted down, you aren't, your purse or your backpack isn't rummaged through, and metal detectors aren't a requirement for entry. And it's just another thing to check off the list where no, you have to get a full pat down when you go into these events now. And I know when I go to the Blizzard event for Overwatch, Overwatch League this year, Jesus, in just a couple of months, it's gonna be different. Yeah, right. It's gonna be different, and that completely shifted the culture, and it's not necessarily a good thing, but it's a necessary thing, and it hurts so much, man. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know stuff like the fighting game community with Evo and stuff like that. I mean, you get a lot of people that have bad behavior. I mean, we haven't seen a shooting or anything like that too, but some of the people that come in there and the way they act when they lose and stuff is kind of scary. I mean, you can look on YouTube videos and see some of that stuff.
Right. But a temper tantrum is one thing, and fisticuffs is another thing, but
when's that temper tantrum going to turn into, someone pulling out something,
Exactly.
But I think that the esports, because the fighting game community has always had this reputation of being kind of dirty, and not very welcoming and very hostile style, like a lot of shit talking and stuff like that, and like infighting. And I read that stuff all the time, and I think that these esports organizers need to somehow do something to put a stop to that kind of stuff, that behavior. If you're acting like that, you're fuck out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it kind of needs to be. Everybody needs to be respectful, and I don't know.
Or like offer some sort of I know this sounds like a, infantile, but like some sort of counseling or something, just like somebody on site, like, hey man, you got a little bit of rage, like here's your rage cage, go talk it out,
Yeah, go beat your head against this padded wall, or go scream at this pillow or something.
Or just talk to someone.
I mean, the reality is these esports businesses are sports businesses. Like the NFL doesn't let people like that hang around, nor the NBA, nor the Major League Baseball. It's like, it's a privilege to use your skill to earn money, but they're making money off you. And if you damage the brand, no one is above the brand ever. And that's how these organizers need to operate. Unfortunately, it's gotten to the point where there's real money now. This isn't 3 guys in a hotel room betting over Street Fighter anymore. It's real money with real things at stake, with sponsorships and, TV deals and advertising and all these things that have come into play, which is all great. The sport's grown. It's brought legitimacy to the entire thing. But with that comes all of the problems of that. And it's growing pains. That's all this is. This is people trying to act like it's still 20 years ago. And it's just not now.
Yeah.
It just isn't.
Yeah. No, that's cool. My answer to this question would be how much in 2018 I feel that gaming journalism has become less of a thing. I guess you could say. I'm not going to say that it's like going the way of the dodo or anything like that. But with the rise of YouTubers, because I think YouTubers have probably gotten as big as they ever have this year. With the rise of podcasting, like people like us, that come in here and do our thing, and podcasting is becoming so huge lately. And a lot of people get their game information off of that. There's also, not only YouTubers, but Twitch streamers. A lot of people will go in, instead of like reading reviews and everything, they will go and they will watch some samples of the game being played and then make their decisions based off stuff like that. So I think less people are reading game reviews now in coverage and are more interested in what YouTubers have to say and what Twitch streamers are doing and stuff like that. And I think we've seen a lot more of that this year. And just the fact that gaming journalism this year has kind of taken a black eye as well. I mean, look what happened with IGN and that whole Philip Mewson guy. How he plagiarized all of his damn reviews, and that completely got past them. And now you can't look at an IGN review without looking at the comments at the bottom of the video or the article saying, "Did you guys plagiarize this?" I mean, it's everywhere. And then now, towards in December, we had that guy in IGN who wrote that review for Borderlands 2 VR and claimed that the game did a bunch of shit that it didn't do and gave it a terrible score, and everyone called him out on it. And they had to pull that review too. It's like stuff like that. I think people are starting to lose trust on big gaming sites like IGN and stuff like that. And they're going to your YouTubers and your Twitch streamers and stuff to get what they need to make their educated decisions or to learn about game news, or they're going to podcasts or all that stuff. And I feel like we are seeing that more in 2018 rolling into 19 than we ever have any other year.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it speaks to the first story of why Sony isn't at E3 anymore. Those two things are hand in hand. And I mean, you look at a lot of these major companies, IGN and Giant Bomb, and hardly any of them really do reviews anymore. It's got to be a really big game for them to do a proper review. And
they all kind of strip the review scores out now too.
Yeah.
I mean, even Polygon jumped on board that this year. They stopped doing review scores.
They do a lot of the watch us play it while we talk about it and kind of review it as we play it thing. And it's very different. It's just because you're right. You're absolutely right. No one reads reviews anymore. Yeah, I can't tell you the last time I made a buying decision based on reviews written.
You want to know the last review I read?
What's that?
It was the Dead Cells one. It was the plagiarized Dead Cells IGN review. It's been a minute.
Yeah, but you didn't. So I mean, you love that game, Elena, and you didn't get into that game based all. You got the buzz some other way.
Oh yeah, I know. That was the funniest thing for me this year, was finding that game, one of my favorite games of potentially all time, based on a news story about it being plagiarized. And I read the article and I was like, this game sounds interesting. And next thing you know, I'm in love with it and I'm playing it a shit ton. I don't want to do a disservice to that gentleman though, because I did go to his YouTube channel and watch his review and it was much better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And I love that Philip Mewson guy keeps trying to come back because he was a YouTuber before he went to IGN.
Yeah.
And he was plagiarizing shit back then too. But now he keeps trying to make a comeback. And every time he releases like a video trying to make a comeback, and the whole community's like, no, and just kind of pushes him back again.
Sorry, man.
So,
and I actually will give IGN a ton of credit for, I mean, it was hours after that story broke that they were like, yep, he's fired. He's gone. Yeah. Like they did not wait around. They didn't like try to bury it themselves. They're like, "Yep, our mistake. He's fired."
Yeah, and they admit it too. But it's just how quickly it happened to prove that how little like research they did or editing at the very least, just to see if it was plagiarized in the first place. Like, dude, if you had done a little bit of research, you would have been able to figure this out.
Sure, but I mean, you have to have a base trust on your employees.
That's valid.
I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I shouldn't have to fact check every single thing of people I'm paying to write for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you trust their integrity. That's why you hired them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what about the developers and the publishers this year? Who had the best year? Who surprised you the most this year in terms of just either publishers or game creators? It could be a game someone created or a studio that did something that went above and beyond. Like who had the best year this year? Zach, let's go with you.
Damn.
Go ahead, Shannon.
I like it.
I'm trying to stick to the damn path.
I know, but Shannon,
But he's taking all my answers.
He's like, no, Mike's turn.
All right, we'll change it up. Go ahead, Shannon.
I mean, mine's pretty on the nose. I think it's just epic, just because Fortnite is just as big of a juggernaut as it is, and they acquired $1.25 billion in like venture capitalist funding. So, like, Lord knows what they're going to do with that money, but I think it's going to be pretty hard.
Launch Steam. That's what they do with that money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's my short answer. Is epic.
But do you think that Fortnite's going to be as big as it was in 2018 and 2019? Yeah. Or do you think the Steam's going to start to kind of, no pun intended with Steam?
I was going to say, very nice, Josh. Very nice.
The sales, they're going to be let out of the sales a little bit, because how long can this game really carry on as popular as it is? I mean, something's got to come along and steal the glory at some point.
Nah, man. Ask my nephew, who just eat, breathes, shit, sleeps it. He cannot stop playing this game, and I've never seen anything quite like it. Like, I have my Overwatch, and he has Fortnite, and it's like times 20 of like just he's addicted, man. It's insane. The love is so real.
That's kind of what I'm talking about, though, because you just mentioned Overwatch, and when Overwatch came out, like, that was the Fortnite of, I mean, not as big as Fortnite, but
it wasn't.
I mean, it was like the online game, and now I don't feel like it's as big as it was.
It wasn't. Yeah,
but look at Minecraft. I mean, how long was Minecraft around for? Like, I mean, that thing was a juggernaut for a while.
Minecraft's still around.
I mean,
but I feel like Fortnite's kind of smacking that game around.
Well, but I think. No, to Shannon's point, though, I think Fortnite will become Minecraft, which is a thing that silently makes $1 billion a year.
Thank you.
It's just one of those, is it going to be on the cover of Time magazine and people talking about it in every single conversation related to video games they have an entire year? No, it won't. But will it have hundreds of millions of players? Yes. Like, that's just the thing. It'll silently roll along, making just ungodly amounts of money. And there'll be new things. There'll be the next thing. There'll be the big thing. But people will still just keep feeding money into this because that's what it's made for.
Yeah.
It's made for it.
Yeah. And I gotta give
they're
it to
good
them.
at it. They're smart.
Yeah.
They're so much better than Bluehole is on it. Like, it's amazing when you look at the lead.
Creative with what they're doing, like every season of that game too. I mean, the game like morphs into something new every season. I think that's incredibly smart.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing, man. That's something.
Battlegrounds had a full year head start on them, and Fortnite just fucking blew by them like they were the Roadrunner and Bluehole was Wile E. Coyote. Like, it was just gone, and it's just, wait, what happened? Amazing the stuff they pulled off.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. What about you, Elena?
No, same. I hate to say it, but same. So it's Fortnite and Epic Games, because it's just like, just thinking about how, dude, I don't give a shit. I'm just going to build off the point. There were, I think, over 8 million hours streamed on various streaming platforms like Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and Periscope, just in the first quarter of 2018. Just the first couple of months, 8 million hours. That just goes to show how addicted. This is one of the most streamed games on the planet right now. And just like Zach said, it will lose steam, and I don't think it's going to be replaced in 2019. I think it's going to stay, in my opinion, the top dog, the top big MMO game of 2019. And I think the kids are going to stay hooked on it. And the only way it's going to be replaced is if it is replaced. Like, you find something that these kids love more than Fortnite. It's not going to be like, oh, this new game came out, I'm going to take a break on Fortnite. Like, no. It's just going to be put, like, for example, with me, Overwatch is put on the back burner. It never goes away. I'm still throwing money at it to a certain extent. I'm still, putting the love in, putting the time in. So I think the best year was definitely Epic Games, despite everything that happened, because they've had some PR trouble recently, what with those dances and whatnot, but they're not going anywhere, man. This was a great year for them.
Okay. Well, and also I would add to that, Epic has in Fortnite and Battle, they've made the language of gaming change. When Battlefield 5 launched without a battle royale mode, everyone was like, what are you doing? This is the biggest mistake you could have possibly done. And a year ago, no one would have thought about it.
Yeah.
The battle royale mode is the reason people are buying Call of Duty. No one gives a shit about Call of Duty's multiplayer anymore, except people love the blackout mode. And it's amazing how in 1 year, essentially, the entire language of video games has changed around.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think you can buy the blackout mode separate now.
They made it so they took out zombies. So it has just multiplayer and blackout.
I wish I bought that version because I don't give a shit about the zombie mode.
Right.
But yeah. So what about you, Zach? Are you the same answer or do you got something different?
No, well, I'll go with something different. My publisher of the year is actually Sony. Because this was the year Sony had to deliver on some of these promises they've laid out over the last couple years. Mm-hmm. And between God of War and Spider-Man, they knocked it out of the goddamn park. Like, those are two of the best games of the year. They're two of the best looking games of the year. They both ran amazing. They both played amazing. They were rock solid from beginning to end, and they sold a fuck ton of them. So it's one of those, like, when you look at those were two things that could have crushed Sony. If either God of War or Spider-Man came out and was bad or did not hit in any way, it would have been crippling. They based so much of this year financially around those two titles, and they killed it. It was amazing to see it all play out in real time, and I think Sony needs a huge tip of the cap for that. That was a huge risk to go back to God of War and to fucking try to make a good Spider-Man game. Like, it's been so long since Spider-Man 2, you guys. It has been so long, like 20 years since Spider-Man 2 came out. Like, it's been a minute since we've had a good Spider-Man game.
Not even those two games, but I mean, Detroit sold pretty well. It was pretty well received. Tetris Effect is a PS4 exclusive and has done incredibly well. Astro Bot's been blowing people's minds, which is a PSVR exclusive.
Exactly.
There's a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's not just those two. Those were the two big financial crazy ones. But no, I think Sony has had an amazing year.
And we can't forget that they also dropped that really good Shadow of the Colossus remake this year in 2018 as well, which I really enjoyed.
And backed remakes in general, the Crash and Spyro and stuff like that's all Sony backed stuff. And they rode that wave. They kind of figured out there's money to be mined there. And, it's pretty impressive to see what they've put together, because they could have, and you could argue that they did get fat and lazy in some ways in regards to innovation and things like that. But they could have also done that as far on the publishing side as well, and they didn't. And I think that should be recognized.
And they were kind of the saviors of 2018, because the games, we'll talk about this more later, but games for me, this wasn't like the greatest year for games at all. Like, it was kind of a slower year for games for me, and really all of Sony's exclusives are the ones that were like the head turners this year, because Microsoft pretty much just had Forza and that was it. So
Microsoft was still figuring out what the hell they're doing. This was the year you saw their plan come out, but they didn't have anything yet.
And I think that's another thing that we could talk about too, is just overall between Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo. Like, I think people are also pleasantly surprised with Nintendo, because I remember when the Switch was first coming out that people were saying, oh, they're going to blow their load in the first year. Like every game that you would want to play on the Switch is going to come out in that first year. And then what are they going to have for the second year? What are they going to have like down the road as far as a pipeline to keep people coming back and buying games on this console?
And the answer is every game released in 2013. That's what they have.
I don't know. Like that's the thing. Since I haven't played a Nintendo game in a while, I mean, I'm inclined to go back and dip into that pond and enjoy those. But I do think that you also have to look at the longevity of Nintendo, the Switch console, and realize that that it, while it might not be the strongest contender, it's still gaining traction. I mean, people are still talking about it. People are still happy to have those appliances, not like the Wii. What was it? The Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
I will say that this holiday season, pretty much every retailer I went to, almost everyone walking out of that front door had a Switch in their bag.
Yes,
nice.
As they should have.
Well, and also I will say, not necessarily for publisher, but it was a major story to see Nintendo figure out their hardware problems. Like like you could get NES Classic, Super NES Classic Switches where 2 years ago all of that was crazy scarce. And
people were fist fighting in the streets for it.
Yeah. And this was the year they figured it out. They're finally were like, oh, people do want to buy these things. I guess make more machines. Yeah. So.
And quite the inverse. Nobody wants a Sony PlayStation
1.
Yeah. So you guys pretty much took all the best answers, but I also just wanted to mention, I don't think they were the best, or they had the best year, but I just want to throw in Microsoft there a little bit as well, just because this is the first year that Microsoft hasn't been like the laughing stock of the industry. Everyone's just kind of ignoring it. Xbox One, who wants that shit? They ain't got no games coming out. Like this is the first year, and they didn't have like a lot of first party games or anything come out this year either. That's still a problem for them, but I think this is the first year that I've been looking at Microsoft and thinking, I really want to know what they have in store for us going forward.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
More so than Sony. Like when I look to next gen, I'm more excited what Microsoft's doing than what Sony's doing because of all of the new things that they're trying and the risks that they're taking. And to me, that is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
I've got... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lynn.
No, it's just funny because at the beginning of the year, I was shitting all over Microsoft. You guys heard me. And towards the end of the year, I'm like, okay, all right. I was kind of thinking about that
now
too.
You got one, right?
Yeah, I do. It's fucking great, man. We'll talk about it later. It's
you're
cool.
like, this Game Pass thing's kind of all right. I don't know.
Yep. My dad was telling me about it, and I was like, wait, a what? A what? I couldn't believe it. So I'm really excited.
I got one more I'll throw on there as most surprising. Because it's something that I didn't really see coming at all. Capcom had an amazing goddamn year. Like Capcom, like dude, like how many f-ups has Capcom had over the years? Like, and Monster Hunter World was great. Like all the Street Fighter updates were rock solid. Like Mega Man 11, fantastic. Like they had such a great year as a publisher, and like hit a bunch of sales highs that they've never had before. Had licensing deals and media deals that had never existed before. And it's like, it was just good to see Capcom kind of come roaring back because they do have an amazing library of characters, and to see them finally leverage some of these properties into profitability is great. Like it makes me excited for Resident Evil coming up and to just see what else they have cooking because they've been on a roll now, and it's great to.
I think they're gonna have a bigger year this year, though.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Resident Evil 2 is probably my most anticipated game right now, and we get it like in less than a month, which is awesome.
I just hope Sega's in the corner taking notes, man. Like, just
please, Sega, please. And not only that, but they're finally bringing back Devil May Cry in the form that people want it to be in. So that's a big deal. I have that demo on my Xbox. I still haven't played the damn thing yet. I'm not really a big fan of that franchise, but I might give it a shot. Also like the fact that they're dipping their toes back in Onimusha by bringing back the remaster of the original, which I'm going to be all over because I absolutely adore that game, and I will buy as many copies as I possibly can if that will knock some sense into them and make them make a fifth one.
You're no. That's going against your New Year's resolution.
It is.
You're hella right.
But that's how bad I want a new Onimusha game because I love those games. So no, I'm going to buy it once. I'm going to buy it for the Switch. So, but yeah, I mean, Capcom is really starting to kind of deliver the goods, and which is awesome. And
I hope Monster Hunter can turn into a profit generating game for them. It seems to be like they've sold a lot of copies of it. The ongoing seasons and whatnot seems to be holding a standard player base. Like, I hope this becomes a good money maker that they can iterate on, because Monster Hunter is great. Like, it is so good. And just to finally make a version that is not impenetrable is a huge accomplishment, I think, for them.
Yeah, it's the most successful that franchise has been in the States ever.
Worldwide, it's most successful. It's most money they've made on Monster Hunter ever.
Yeah, so, that franchise is huge in Japan, but it never really did much. I mean, they always still brought them over here for the most part, but all of them.
It was like an obscure, something or other that your friends loved. It's like, oh, play Monster Hunter, and I'm like, man, I can't really get, because my first introduction to that was on the DS, and I was just not having it. It was not fun in any way, shape, or form for me. And
my first one was a PSP one, and it played awful.
Yeah, and recent iterations are like very expansive, and they've made it. I hear they made it a little bit more linear, so it's not as like. I don't know, man. I definitely want to get into that franchise, but it was intimidating for me to start. So I understand why it's like somewhat of a niche market. But
yeah, I mean, basically they took it from some otaku bullshit into like the mainstream, and it's that was way harder than I think they ever thought it would be. So. And
now I want to play it now that it's not otaku bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you know what I mean, though. Like that was.
Oh, no, I get you. Yeah,
those were the people that played Monster Hunter. Like. Let's be real for a second.
It's funny that you mentioned Street Fighter V as well, because as you can see behind me, I have that Street Fighter cabinet back there, and I've been playing that thing.
I've been staring at it jealously this whole time.
I've been playing that thing, and I can tell you that going back to these older Street Fighter games, like I just want to play Street Fighter V.
Yeah,
like they made that game so good, in my opinion, that it kind of erases their legacy of Street Fighter, and that's the one I want to play.
It's funny. I had that same reaction to the the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection came out this year too from Capcom, and I had the same reaction playing that, going through them all. I'm like, oh man, that 5 is just so much better than all of this.
You have no idea how much time I spent on Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition trying to figure out how to throw Chun-Li's fireball until I finally realized that it wasn't even in that version of the game. So I had to go play Super in order to throw the fucking fireball.
Yeah, it was Hyper Fighting that had that.
Yeah, Hyper Fighting was the one that introduced it. Yeah, but luckily they have the Super Street Fighter. And then I played Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. My God, that game's so damn fast. It's just like, no, I can't do that. But yeah, no, I mean, Street Fighter 5 really is like probably my favorite Street Fighter game in the franchise. I think they did an awesome job on it.
But can you do Guile's handcuffs and the air throw and all that stuff?
No, I could never do that even as a kid, man. That shit's tough.
Forward, back, forward, and the 2 middle buttons. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Write that down.
Hot tips from 1994.
Pro tips.
Someone call Game Pro.
We can't anymore.
Someone phone up Scary Larry.
He's drinking in a bar down the street. Like,
yeah.
I remember when I was someone.
So what about the worst this year in terms of publishers and developers? Who got your dumpster fire of the year award? Who did the worst? And
Come on, there's only one answer
anymore. You guys just throw it out there. I don't want you to fight.
There's only one answer here.
What's the answer?
Bethesda. Bethesda is the biggest dumpster fire of the entire year. Like, I mean, everything around Fallout 76 just went from bad to worse to laughable to we better make a movie about how bad this is. Like it went so sideways on them in so many different ways.
Movie or something.
Yeah, like
yeah.
Oh man.
Well, I see. I would even add to that as well that this was like their only game this year that I remember. Like, did they release anything else other than Fallout 76?
I can't. A lot of pent-up frustrations.
I mean, they had the port of Wolfenstein 2 for the Switch. Like that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Like
they had some like Elder Scrolls updates and stuff, but
this was their Elder Scrolls Online. You're right. Yeah, but this was like their cash cow. This was what they were banking on this year, and it just crashed and burned before them. I don't feel sorry for them. They put it on themselves. But I have to agree with you that that's bad. That game really did a number on them, and I'm really interested to see how they recover. I would actually,
and it's a Fallout game. Like they named it Fallout 76. Like, this is like one of their big tentpole franchise things, and to release that, like,
and all the lies that Todd Howard like gave in that E3 presentation that was all bullshit. I heard a rumor that this game was originally a mod, and that they put a stop to the mod and then kind of stole it and started developing it themselves, and put a stop to the actual development of the mod that someone was making. I don't know if that's true, but that kind of makes sense because it feels like a shit half-ass mod, so I don't know, but I would actually argue also that EA had a really shitty year. I mean, they have a shitty year every year, it seems. Yeah. But the fact that a Battlefield game has done as bad as it has, I don't think I've ever seen a Battlefield game do this bad. I mean, I know Hardline didn't do too well, but it still sold pretty decently. This game, I mean, it went on discount like a week after its release. People in the community and the Battlefield community are poo-pooing all over it. And the fact that it's still missing feature and they're still just struggling to sell this thing, it makes that like bad taste in your mouth with EA continue. Like, is EA going to have a year where they do something right? Because this wasn't it, and it makes me nervous for Anthem. And whatever else they have coming. I mean, what's next for them? They're going to have another Battlefront probably next year as well. I don't know, because they've been kind of alternating between those two. But it makes me extremely nervous to buy an EA game because of this. It's every big massive game they release for the holiday has just failed miserably on them over the past few years. So it's I'd still say they're continuing to do really bad too. And I've played Anthem. I can't talk about it. I can say that I enjoyed what I played of it. But at the same time, this makes me extremely nervous to purchase it because how much of that game that I didn't get to see is this going to be a deal killer? I don't know. What about you, Shannon, Elena?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think Sony was really too friendly to gamers this year. I mean, with them saying that they didn't want to do the cross-platform thing initially, and then when they did, saying that your accounts were basically just kind of locked to being on their network, like you couldn't basically transfer any of your purchases or anything.
Yeah, over. I was really pissed about that.
I know that created a lot of upheaval, and before they actually probably took a lot of confidence away from some of the fans of or whoever was playing these games on their console. Is definitely going to think twice, I think, when the next generation comes out. So I mean, while it's not on par with the other things that we've been discussing, I do think that that's something that's notable. That stuck out in my mind throughout the year as to what happened, because I always saw them as being it was just kind of a petty thing, just kind of being like, oh well, we're the leader. If you want to play these games with these accounts, then just buy our consoles, just stay on our consoles, just keep playing here. It's fine. Don't play anywhere else. And, and then when they released that Too Tough, like you're, too bad, like this is how it is. You're stuck with it. Like there was no middle ground with them. So it kind of made me kind of give pause to Sony, just a little bit being a fanboy and all, but
the whole thing with the what was the online accounts, like changing your name and just like, oh yeah, you might like lose all your shit in some of these games, but yeah, you can.
No worries, it's not a problem. It's like, come on, man. Like, are you serious?
Hopefully that's just a beta thing. Hopefully they'll work that out. But
that, and also what I talked about earlier with Quantic Dream, like when that game was coming out, they were trying to do everything that they could to really kind of hush that story too. So I mean, like they weren't really an altruistic company this year that you really wanted to get behind. They were just kind of shitheads, but like you just kind of dealt with them because you wanted to play video games.
That E3 presentation was really weird and confusing too.
Yeah, it was a blunder.
Yeah. I remember that. That's awesome.
You got anything, Elena?
Yeah, it was for me personally, it was Sony as well. Cause like I've had enough controlling boyfriends in the past for this to really irk me. I swear to God, man, Sony was acting like just like the most abusive douchebag broy boyfriend you could have this year. Like seriously, man, like for real, between their marketing tactics and like their like politician-esque responses to criticism, whether it's constructive or critical, you know, whether it's for the name changes and the username changes or like, you know, denying players crossplay for months until eventually allowing it and then locking you out. It was just like a spit in your face almost. And like you were saying, Shannon, they're not being very altruistic. I like that because you know, I was a core Sony consumer for a long time, and now I'm more on the Switch side of things. And, you know, I was just talking about it a couple minutes ago, more and more by the day, I'm leaning towards Microsoft. And Dad, this is your fault. This is all your fault. Oh, dude, I really didn't think this was going to happen, but I can't in good faith keep sticking by Sony when I'm not proud to be a consumer. I am when it comes to Nintendo and Switch. Like there's fun, there's family, there's all that when it comes to you know, Nintendo and Switch. But Sony, there's a dirtiness to that entire company, that publisher this year that I'm just not vibing off of. And it just like Shannon said, it makes me really, really apprehensive. What console, because I can only afford one. What console am I going to buy, you know, next gen? And it's you know, right now I'm not feeling Sony at all. And that's just on a personal level. So I don't know.
Okay. Gotcha. What about any studios that sprouted up this year that makes you guys feel like they have a bright future in this industry? Did anyone pop up that you're just like, damn, I'm going to start keeping an eye on those people?
I don't know.
Well, mine, they're not a new studio this year, but their first major game came out this year, and that's Motion Twin, who released Dead Cells. That studio, I will play whatever they release next, no questions asked. That is... And I can say that's probably the only one that came out this year that I feel that way about. The people, I'm blanking on the name, but the people that released Yoku's Island Express is on that list as well. That for just how inventive that game was and how neat and just joyful to play. That game was just amazing to play all the way around. And it's one of those things, but Dead Cells, they couldn't have gotten it better. And I'm just thoroughly impressed by that team, and we'll play whatever they release next. No questions asked.
Seconded, big time. Dead Cells for me, and just I will definitely follow whatever they do from here on out.
Yeah, the Matt Makes Games team that made Celeste really stood out to me this year.
Yeah, that's a great call. Yeah. That's a great call.
Because they made a game that I typically would avoid, and not only made it incredibly enjoyable, but and also a pretty moving and thought-provoking experience in the same time. And I did not expect that out of that game at all. And the fact that they made such an interesting retro kind of feeling game with a large difficulty curve, and they're able to make it something more than that was what really makes me want to keep paying attention to them to see what they make next. We'll talk more about that later, that game, but yeah, for me, it's Matt Makes Games, I think is the name of them, that made Celeste, and they won like a game award for their music, and they seem like a super passionate, really awesome group of people, like a small team. And they're not new. They made a game called Towerfall a while back. That was actually an Ouya exclusive. So yeah, but that would be my answer. Anyone else?
Well, I don't even know why I bother even answering, because Zach just steals all my goddamn answers all the time. But maybe it's just because Zach and I have been friends for so long that we're simpatico. But
I said you hemmed and hawed, and I just started talking. So
poking our fingers, and Zach's like, "All right, well, shit, I'll go."
Sorry, I don't have my finger as far on the pulse of Video Game Society as you do. But you know, I did struggle to pull another one out of me. Out of my hat here, I would probably say Digital Sun. They made Moonlighter, and I guess,
good call.
That was a really good
game, man.
That was a really good game. Yeah, if you didn't like the Stardew Valley like talk and relationship bullshit, and you just wanted to do the mining and the selling, so
that's on Game Pass, I think, now too.
Yeah, so, I would give it a go. It's a fun game.
Oh, is it?
God damn
I believe so. Yeah.
Ooh, I'll have to check that out. Elena, you got one?
No, man, it's Dead Cells all the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so that wraps up the industry part. Let's get into the bread and butter of this discussion here. Let's get into our Game of the Year 2018 discussion. So we're going to have like some little topics here before we get into the lists. So we're just going to throw it off right now with what's the most surprising game for you guys this year? What's the one that came out that just shocked you? Like, wow, I did not know this was even coming. This was under the radar, and it blew my mind.
Shannon is not going to have my answer. My answer is a game I just played recently called Gris.
Oh yeah, you've been talking about that. Yeah.
GRIS. Like,
yeah.
I want to hear more because I've seen it on the TPL Facebook group, but that's it. So
this game, it released. I bought it on the Switch. I think it released on PC at the same time. But it's essentially a kind of journey type game where you start as a character who loses her voice in the beginning, and the color gets stripped out of the world. It's a very art direction heavy focus game, but its base play is a platformer. And all the color gets stripped out of the world. You lose your voice, and at the beginning of the game, you basically can just walk forward and jump very little. But there's puzzle platforming to do, to collect stars, to fill out constellations, and as you do that, you basically kind of start to rebuild the goddess, and color comes back to the world. First comes red, then blue, then green. That might be out of order, but you get the idea. And with every color, you get a little healthier. So you get another ability. You get the ability to jump further, fall harder, break blocks, things like that. And the world starts to open up. It's not a Metroidvania type system where you now can go back and do other things, but the world changes around you, and areas become accessible and things like that. But you're not returning to the same areas. It's just areas open up now because the world has changed, because color got added to it. And it's stunningly beautiful. It is a great emotional story. It's a sit down and play it for 3 hours from beginning to end. And when you're done, you feel something. Like, that game talks to you in a way that very few games do. And it's incredibly powerful. It's really, really, really good. I mean, my wife is now playing it because she saw me play it and went, I need to play this. And so she's got my Switch now and is playing through Gris on her own, and is also just completely taken with the game. It's one of those games I had never even heard of until I saw on Twitter, someone posted a video going like, hey, does anyone know about this game? I just came across this on the Switch, and saw 2 minutes of gameplay and went, I need to play this game. And I think it's $20.
And that dropped in December, didn't it?
Yeah. It literally dropped like 2 weeks ago. And
silently.
I've heard of it, but I didn't really look into it much. And now I feel like I have to play this.
You have to play it. It's really good. It's one of those games where, and you know what? Maybe wait for a sale. Maybe, it's one of those things. I think it's an important game. I think it's a game people need to play, but it is also like a 2 to 3 hour game. So
I'm okay with that. I got kids,
keep that in mind.
I got a job.
Yeah, exactly.
I got shit to do, man. I'm all right with that.
But it's great. It's really, really good. And I can't talk enough about it, but that's my most surprising game of the year.
Okay. Now, Shannon, let's go ahead and go to you before someone steals your answer.
I don't know. Like, I know what Elena's going to say, so I'll save that one for her. But I think Yoku's Island Express was a pretty good game. That surprised the hell out of me. I didn't think I was really going to enjoy it, and I was looking for something to kind of fill the void between games. So I bought it, and I really enjoyed the mechanics of the game, the color of the game, just everything about it. It didn't feel too overly challenging, but it felt challenging enough to where you felt accomplished when you did something. And there's so much more to that game to do other than just the story. There's a lot more places to explore, a lot more things to collect. So if you're a completionist, it's definitely got some meat on that bone for you to actually want to play it longer than just the 8 hours it takes to complete the story. So I think that was my biggest surprise. Everything else go ahead.
And the music is so good. I love the music in Yoku's Island Express. It's so good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that game too. It was pretty good. What about you, Elena?
Well, I'm curious as to what Shannon thinks I'm going to say, because I actually didn't think about this one. No, I'll say my piece and then you tell me what yours was, because I'm curious. For me, and it's not actually a game that came out this year, it was Dead Man's Sky. I had no
No Man's Sky.
Yeah, No Man's Sky. Yes, yeah, exactly. No Man's Sky. I wasn't expecting to, see that game back from the dead, essentially. So I was very surprised. And it got a bunch of TLC, man. Like I had no idea that was coming. I was expecting it would stay a Dead Man's game. So
it's really crazy too because they turned that game around this year to where now there's not a stigma attached to it where like everyone just saw this shit.
Or
now
where somebody thinks it's called
game.
Dead Man's Sky.
Yeah. They actually can say the name correctly and they actually like it now. So
yep.
Yeah, that's a big
that was a game that I picked up for $10 just because people had talked about it for so long, and I was like, yeah, I just want to see what this game is, and put a lot of time into out of nowhere. It was just one of those like, oh wait, this is actually pretty good now.
Yeah.
So
I still would argue that escaping your first planet for the first time is still one of the coolest moments from this gen that I've played. So the mixture of the music and everything was just super awesome.
The visual,
theatrical,
the most surprising game for me would probably be the Tetris Effect, just because that game just kind of dropped during E3 out of nowhere, and just the trailer alone sold me on it. Like I saw that trailer. It's one of my favorite game trailers of all time. I love that trailer. I mean, you stood up and took notice when that fucking trailer kicked in. And the fact that not only did it live up to the hype of that trailer, but I love the game as much as I do. And it's a game that I'm going to be continuing to play well into 2019. That really surprised me. And it's Tetris. I mean, it's Tetris, but they took it and they elevated it. And it's one of my favorite developers that was able to pull that off. So that really surprised me this year. I was not expecting that.
Well, you were expecting a Tetris game, but not a Tetris game like that, man. Like that's a game changer. Like literally, like that changed a life.
Yeah, absolutely. What about the worst game this year that you guys played? Anyone just want to throw it out there?
Mega Man 11.
Oh shit!
Oh no!
Slap Zach in the face on that one.
Oh
man. Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're well with it, man.
Just throwing shade all over the place right now. Just giving it all.
What was it for you?
You cut me deep, dude.
That game was so frustratingly. I just felt it was cheap. Like everybody. We always talk on this game about like Dead Cells, where like when you die, it didn't feel cheap. If you died, it was something you did, or there was something you weren't seeing as far as like a behavior or a pattern for the enemies. Like in this game, I feel like it's being cheap to just be cheap, and that is so frustratingly. I just, oh man, like I have never wanted to break one of my Switch controllers until I played that game. Like I've never had that much rage boil up inside.
It's really strange you say that too, because that's how I felt about this franchise as a whole. But I actually felt the opposite about 11. This is the first one I actually really got into because I thought it felt more accessible. I played it on the easy mode though. I know how you are super against playing games on easy for the most part, so I can get that. But I actually really dug this game, and I'm not a Mega Man fan at all.
I mean, Shannon, did you try things like? Did you try just getting better at games? Like, is that something you did?
Did you try getting good, or like changing the difficulty?
You don't have to hit the hurt, my friend. It's all right. Like,
you already took the gloves off by saying Mega Man 11 was the worst game you played this year. Like,
it was like with all the other games that I had fun playing. Like, this was the one that where I walked in the door, I went nope, and I went right back out the door. I mean, that's just how it is. Like, I think
that says a lot about the quality of games you played this year. I think that just means you played a lot of good games. Like,
I'll tell you right now, in the top 5, my top 5 list, 3 of the 5 games I put in over 50 hours in each game. And so, I mean, like, I would probably say that, yeah, I mean, maybe I didn't give it a fair shake, and yeah, maybe I'm being a little too harsh with the other games that I've had fun playing this year, but like, if it doesn't get me to have fun within the first 10 minutes of playing it, then like, why would I want to put any more time into that game? Like, why beat my head against the wall?
I just can't stop thinking about how many hours. You have a full-time job, bro. Like, where are you finding the time?
Once baby goes to bed and like my wife watches her like nighttime shows, like is my video game time. So usually I get 2 to 3 hours in like a night if I'm
Dang, that's commitment. That's insane.
I get that same amount of time if I sacrifice sleep, and half the time.
Yeah, that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm just giving up sleep.
Yeah. Zach, you got one?
Actually, come back to me. Not right now.
Okay. Elena?
Yeah.
I don't have a worse game that I played, but I had a worse game that I had to watch. And watching my nephew play Fortnite is easily my worst gaming experience of 2018.
Right.
He is
tired in floss dances
and oh my god, he's for a little white kid, he's actually pretty good at it. He's pretty good at dancing thanks to Fortnite. So thanks Fortnite for that.
Did you guys see that Ninja, that popular streamer that does Fortnite stuff? He did a New Year's Eve like Times Square show, and he got up in front of all the audience and he tried to get everyone out there to floss, and no one did it, and he just made a huge ass out of himself.
See, that's the crazy thing, man. That kid Ninja is one of the most popular YouTubers right now, but he goes out in big boy world, and no offense to Ninja, I know nothing about him. I know zero things, but like he goes out in the real world and everybody's like, dude, get the stop acting a fool. I ain't gonna floss. Like, go away. It's New Year's. Go away.
Yeah. I was at a store the other day. They had a Ninja poster you can buy.
My nephew got a Ninja shirt for Christmas. That's all. He was so excited about it. He put it on right away. And I was like, who is this cat? And like, I think I'm just going to see who he is. I'm curious.
He kind of stepped in it this year a little bit. Like it's from like a couple PR snafus. But
yeah, he did. The whole, like, I won't like stream with women because of my wife or whatever.
Oh,
like,
he is that guy. Okay.
Yeah. No,
right.
I mean, I kind of see where he's coming from just because of how horrible the internet can be sometimes. Sure. But at the same time, my dad is pretty fucking sexist. I'm not gonna lie.
So other gender, like you can't really come on. Let's just
fun fact. I believe that was the moment where he hired a PR person. Because basically it was like I had a point I was trying to get across, and I really didn't say it the right way. So man, can someone write this for me? Because
I mean, I give the guy props for loving his wife so much that he would, not do anything to hurt their relationship. He's such a big, the personality out there. But at the same time, it was kind of stupid.
That's a very Pencean thing, like a very Mike Pence, mother thou kind of. That's weird.
Yeah, it is. Like it's like I kind of understand where he's coming from, and I kind of don't. And I don't know, whatever.
It was put very poorly.
Yeah. And look, man, we've all put our foot in our mouths, and if my nephew's into him, I'll give him a shot. I'll see what's up. And to be honest, man,
on the guy, man, he did his shit, and he's. I mean, and he's worked for years towards this.
Yeah,
this isn't an overnight thing. No. This guy started out playing Halo 2, I think. So it didn't come overnight for him. So more props to the guy.
Exactly. And it's like the more YouTubers there are, the more you have to, especially with little ones, you got to monitor that stuff. So
tell me about it. Jesus.
Oh, I know. I'm not even the parent, and I'm like, I got to be careful. I'm like doing all my research and stuff, making sure my nephew can watch this YouTuber or such and such. And I'm like, geez, man, being a parent's hard. Rough.
Yeah. The worst game I played this year was We Happy Few. By far. That game, man, it had so much ambition, and it was garbage. The fact that I couldn't even progress through the game because the game literally told me to do things I could not do was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in a video in my life. And how buggy that game was, and how they built it up to be this thing that it never ended up being. I hated that game. I really did. So that would be my answer, was We Happy Few. But at the same time, I'm not mad that I still think that team has talent there. I just don't think this game worked at all, and I don't think they had the budget nor the resources to make it as ambitious as they kind of came out of the gate with. But now that they're owned by Microsoft, I am very curious to see what they have in store for us with their next game under Microsoft's umbrella.
Yeah, it hurts so much too because the plot for that game was really phenomenally interesting for me. Like I wanted it to be good, and even when my dad was asking me if I wanted to borrow it, I was just like, no, I'm okay. You can't say much more than that. And he's like, what? I played it. It's cool. And I was just like, no, I'm all right. You can't say much else.
When the game opens up like BioShock with this really cool premise, and you're just like, oh, all right, this is cool. And then it quickly turns into a really bad procedurally generated like survival game that's no fun to play at all. It's just all the magic just quickly dissipated from that thing. It was terrible. I
got one. Mine's Sea of Thieves.
You play Sea of Thieves?
Yeah, I tried it for it was after CJ was on the show, and he was talking to me about getting into Sea of Thieves with him, and so I played gave it a few nights, and that game, man, that's oof. There's nothing to really do. I mean, it's very pretty. That game looks really cool.
The
but
boat mechanics are pretty rad. I'll give them that.
Yeah, everything that doesn't involve a boat sucks. Like everything that doesn't involve a boat sucks. And it's just like, man. So I'm excited to hear that they're putting in like a single player mode and they're more single player focused quests and stuff like that. Like I will give the game another shot for that. But the edition that I played was just rough. It was not fun. Not fun in the slightest. So.
Yeah, and I had some fun with that game because I played it with some friends, but that fun lasted maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then I had no desire to go back to it.
Yeah,
but it's the setting on the sea with the boat and everyone playing their role was pretty cool. Like I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty cool. But that
and that's what made it fast. And that's what made it such a bummer because that part is really good and
art style's cool.
Yeah, and like everything that isn't that is just the tedious worst thing you've ever done. And it's like
literally do the same thing over and over again.
It's like, how did you hit that part so well and this part so bad? Like, how did that happen?
See, I went into the game thinking it had a questing system, and it didn't.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it kind of does, but I mean, it's just going to this location and getting the treasure or killing the thing, and then going back and then getting money that it takes way too much of to get anything, so no, I mean, I agree with you. I didn't really care for that game either.
Yeah,
but it's not as good as We Happy. I mean, it's not as bad as We Happy Few.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, I wanted to play We Happy Few, and you talking to me about it was like, okay, that one's off the list. I'm not playing that. So,
yep. All right. What games you guys put the most time into this year?
I think you know this one. You were talking about it a couple months ago. It's Dead Cells. Every time you popped on, I was playing Dead Cells. I'm still always playing Dead Cells. When I'm not playing Overwatch, I'm playing Dead Cells. I can't beat it.
50 hours in that shit.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I was shocked when you like popped up on like my friends thing on the Switch and it said like you played for 50 hours. I'm like, damn.
I legit didn't know I've put that much time into that game. I really am frustrated at this point in time because I feel like one of those get good like gamers where it's like I just am not good enough like legit like skill wise to beat this game, and it's the most frustrating experience because it's so fun and I just want to beat it. I've got everything maxed out and I still can't beat this fucking game. It's so embarrassing. I just let me beat it. I wanted to beat it before 2018 ended, and a spoiler, one of my New Year's resolutions is to beat Dead Cells. Jesus.
All right. For me, I think the most time I put into a game this year wasn't even a game from 2018. For me, it was Witcher 3. Like,
really?
I put a lot of time. Yeah, when that game.
I didn't even know you were playing Witcher 3.
Same.
Yeah, earlier in the year I did. I played a lot. I played like 30, 40 hours of it. I got it for. I had the PC version, but I wanted to play it on Xbox One when they released that 4K patch for it because it's like, oh shit, I got this 4K TV. I'd much rather play the game in 4K than on my PC in 1080p. So I picked it up for like less than $20 on Xbox One, and I got really into it. So that's probably the most I played. But if we're going by an actual 2018 release, I would probably say it was God of War. I put a lot of time into.
Yeah, that was my answer too. God of War. Yeah. God of War. I did everything you could for the story, and then the Valkyries, and then the different like realms that you could combat in, and I put a lot of time into God of War.
Damn, did you beat all the Valkyries?
I did not. There's I've got like 4 left or something like that.
Well done.
But it was one of the things where I tried to go back after a couple months of not playing God of War after playing other games, and man, I got rusty as hell. Yeah, and I was like, well, okay, I'm never doing that. So moving on. Here's something I'm never going to accomplish. So okay.
What about you, Shannon?
I think it was Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, although nothing's going to ever get close to my Xenoblade Chronicles, but yeah, Spider-Man, I put in about, I'd probably say 45 to 50 hours.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, I played a lot of Spider-Man too. That would be probably number 2 for me.
Is there a game that came out this year that got away from you guys that you still very much want to play, or maybe one that you didn't play a lot of and you really plan on putting more time into in 2019?
I would say Monster Hunter Worlds. I didn't buy it when it came out, and at some point I just felt I was probably too far behind the newness curve to really kind of get in with the people, to get in with enough people to make it fun for me. And I've never really kind of enjoyed the other versions of Monster Hunter I played on the 3DS, so I was kind of weary about it. But now that I've heard how accessible it is, and you know how much fun people have had, not in groups but just playing solo, I might be inclined to give that a try.
Dude, okay. Shannon, let's totally play Monster Hunter. Let's do that.
All right, let's do it. I'm down.
All right.
Sweet.
For me, it's going to be Red Dead 2. Even though I keep telling myself I should probably give up on that game because I'm not having a whole lot of fun with it. I hear that story so goddamn amazing. I got to see that to the end. So I'm going to push myself through that one, I think.
Yeah,
and
what about the game? Like,
yeah, I know. And the game can be fun. You know, I'm not going to say that it's not 100% unfun.
Sure.
You know, usually for me, the beginning of the game was the biggest slog. I got through the worst of it. So there is that, because I put about 8 or 9 hours into it. But from what I've been told, that if you push through the game, you know, and don't do a lot of side stuff, you can beat the game in around 30 hours. So I think I'm just going to try to tough through it and get that story, because I genuinely do really like the story and the characters, and I really want to see where that goes. And I don't want to do it through like a YouTube video and not get all the context of the experience of it as well. That's not a way that I want to do that. So I think I want to try to go back to that game at some point in 2019.
That Red Dead's one of those games where it makes me jealous when I hear how much people enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, because I know I don't feel that way about that game, and I never will. And it's just one of those things, like, I wish I could. I wish I could get in Rockstar games the way other people do, but man, I just can't. Like, I don't know what it is. It just, their games do not speak to me in that way. I don't know.
I gotta know, what was it, Bully? I was into that game.
Oh, yeah, Bully. That's a rumor that that's their next game.
Oh,
that's Bully 2.
But Bully was also like their most focused effort they've ever done.
That's so good. It's such a good fucking game.
I'd be all over a Bully 2. So yeah. What about you, Elena?
Tetris Effect, and just like VR in general. I want 2019 to be a year where I need to buy Tetris Effect. Like, I have to. I've heard too many good things about it from not only you, but other people as well. And just coming from you, Josh, is like...
It was $20 on Amazon for a while.
Oh, wait, PSVR too?
It's only one version, yeah.
Yeah, it's all the same version. And you don't have to play it in VR.
I want to play it in VR. I want to get motion sick.
I play it more outside of VR than I do in VR.
Okay, well, that's good to know. But to be honest, VR as well is something I'm definitely like, it's something that slipped from me, where I think I'm going to be able to get it pretty cheap sometime this year, whether it's through slick deals or just shopping sales. And I think this year is the year I take the plunge. But Tetris Effect is mandatory. It's mandatory. Like, that's one of my favorite games of all time, man. So hearing how well received it was, it's like, yeah, it's coming. Just a matter of paycheck.
All right. What about you, Zach?
This month is the month that I'm mopping up a lot of things. Like, I really need to put a lot more time into Odyssey. I really want to finish Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I really want to finish Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and Celeste is coming out on Games with Gold this month.
It already is. It's already out.
That's right. It's out today.
Yep.
And so Celeste is the one that is highest on my list of getting my teeth into, because it's just one game I never got to last year, and all I've heard about it is amazing things. So I'm really, really excited to get into that one.
All right. Awesome. You guys ready to do that thing?
Let's do it.
Them top 10s. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go around the table real quick, and we're just going to briefly mention our bottom 5 games. So, like, 6 through 10. I know Elena only made a top 5, so she just wanted to focus on her top 5 only. So we're just going to go around the room, and we're just going to name off those. They can be your bottom 5 games, or they can be just the ones that are your honorable mentions that didn't make your top 5, however you want to do it. Shannon, let's start with you, man. What are yours?
My 10 is Octopath Traveler for the Switch.
Okay.
9 is Moonlighter. 8 is Yoku's Island Express. I think, let's see, 7 would probably be Dead Cells, and 6 would be Detroit Become Human.
Okay. All right. Snuck Detroit on there. Okay, Zach?
So it's kind of in order, but I would go Monster Hunter World, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and that's simply because I haven't played enough of it. I really like what I want, but it's a game that needs to stick the landing to move higher. Mega Man 11, Pokemon Let's Go, which I loved, but not quite enough to be a top 5 game. And Gris actually makes the list.
Sweet.
No.
Lana, did you have anything you want to mention before we go on the top 5 and start?
Nope. Most of the games I played in 2018, besides my top 5, were games that did not come out in 2018. So.
Okay, sweet. All right, so here we go.
What were yours, Josh?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Yeah,
it's important.
my number 10 was Spider-Man.
Oh wow! Oh wait, there! Wow! Okay.
Hey man, it's on the list. Shush.
No, for real. I'm surprised. It's awesome.
The only reason that game is not higher is because I thought the combat was a bit sloppy. I really hope that we get a sequel, and I hope they tighten that up, because every time I play it, I still think of Batman Arkham Asylum and how tight that combat was, and how this just kind of felt very sloppy to me. It's not bad combat. It's just that's why it's lower on my list. Number 9 for me is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I think one of the reasons why that's lower on my list is because I had to pay $10 to enjoy it more.
Right.
No, but I love that game though. Aside from that, number 8 for me is Dead Cells. Number 7 number 7 is Forza Horizon 4. And
it's like I don't even know you.
What's his top? Like, this is
I know. Like,
yeah. See, I got
some
surprises under my sleeve here. And then number 6 for me is Celeste. Those are my top 5.
Hold on, Josh. Let me just take your list and do something to it real quick.
Okay.
I just put it in the shredder.
Is that shredder? Wow. All
right.
Thanks
for the soundboard, bro.
All right.
That's an actual shredder. I had to shred something to do that. That's my dedication to how much I hate your list right now.
It's like you're actually shredded. All right. Top 5. So what we're going to do is we'll go around the table and do our number 5, all of us, and then we'll go to number 4, number 3, number 2, number 1. Okay. Zach, start us out, man. What's your number 5? And tell us why.
My number 5 is Tetris Effect. And it is stunning. Like when that game starts and you don't really know what it is, the board shows up, pieces come in, and then you realize that the pieces are making noise when you turn them and rotate them and move them. And all of a sudden, these hauntingly aquatic visions start creeping in, and this beautiful song it's one of the best opening notes I've ever seen a game have. Like that first song in Tetris Effect is that entire game encapsulated in one moment, and it's amazing. It really is good. The reason it's number 5 and not higher is it's Tetris. Like, it's a game I've been playing for 30 years. It's a stunning version of that game. It is one of the, if not the best version of that game I've ever played in my life. I've been playing that game for 30 years. That's the only reason it's not higher, is because at the end of the day, it's nothing really all that new. It's a very beautiful version of things that have happened elsewhere. But that's why it's number 5. But it's a game everyone needs to play. That game is in stunningly good. It's really, really good.
Cool. Shannon, what about you?
I think my 5 is Pokemon Go. Let's go Eevee.
This is your first Pokemon game, right?
Yeah. It's the first. Well, I played Sapphire, but I never beat it. But this is the first one like that I've actually sat down and enjoyed, and I had the peripheral that went along with it. So, I had a lot of fun catching the Pokemons, and I got the fever because of Zach and his wife and Elena.
You're welcome. You're welcome. By the way.
Yep.
So I had a lot of fun going out and hunting in the real world for the Pokemons, and then bringing them into my game and evolving them. So, I put 40 plus hours into that game. So, I definitely have to give it its credit. I mean, was it enough to beat the other games on the list? No, but for what it was, it brought a lot of joy to my heart. So it gets my number 5 spot.
Cool. Elena?
Surprisingly enough, Forza Horizon 4 is on my top 5. I know, I couldn't fucking believe it, you guys. My dad gave me the Xbox for Christmas. He gave me one of his old hand-me-downs. Apparently, he's got like 4 or 5 Xboxes now. I was like, why did I wait this long to get my hands on one of these these things? But I got one at home.
Just took one from his house. He's got so many, he wouldn't even know it was gone.
I always, for real, man, I always underestimate how much my dad has. Like, I was like, why would he have 5 Xboxes? And then I'm like, wait a minute. He's my dad. Like, of course he has 5 Xboxes. So I finally got my hands on one of those, and he let me borrow Forza Horizon 4. He was I originally was going to take Forza 2, and he was like, dude, no. And he like took it out of my hands and put 4 into my, he's like, no, you're going to play this one. And I was like, aren't you playing it right now? And he's like, you're playing it right now. So this game is a dream. Like, going through the first 4 seasons at the beginning of the game was just pure showboating. It was just showboating. It's legitimately the most environmentally beautiful game I've ever played, and it makes me upset that I don't have a higher quality television to really be able to like witness the beauty that this game is. And it controls really well. It's kind of like in between, you know, like one of those Mario Karts and one of those Gran Turismos, like where it's a full like racing sim, you know, and it's really enjoyable for me. And I'm looking forward to getting into a good racing game, because Mario Kart, I got into this fight with my boyfriend the other day. That's not a racing game, not really. So like I'm excited for
wheels.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for a racing game. So this is going to be something I'm going to sink my teeth into here soon, and it's going to be even better. But it's placing only on my top 5 because I haven't been able to put more than a couple of hours into it. But those hours have been amazing.
Okay, my number 5 is Detroit Become Human.
Okay.
And the reason why this game is my number 5 is because I know that we've had this conversation with Zach and myself about how hokey this game can be and how blatantly it beats the racism stuff over your head. And that's very true. The thing that I love about this game, I'm a huge sci-fi nerd, and I love exploring worlds in like these dystopian or utopian, whatever you want to call it, like sci-fi worlds, like Blade Runner like esque stuff. And to me, I loved exploring this world and looking at everything that it had to offer. I loved the characters. Marcus was probably the worst of the bunch, and that's where most of like the racist, you know, allegory or whatever comes from. But I fell in love, especially with Connor. Like, Connor was probably like the coolest character I've seen in a video game this year. And I love that game from start to finish just because I love the journey it took me on. And I love that the decisions that I made in that game actually altered the game significantly, unlike all these games that claim that they do that and they never do. This game did. And you can play it 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different times and get completely different events that happen if you play it differently. And the fact that they just delivered this world and these characters that I cared about and that I was so compelled from start to finish is the reason why I love this game so much. This is my number 5. So, okay, number 4, Zach.
Number 4, I would say, is Spider-Man. I went back and forth about moving Spider-Man higher a lot on this list because I haven't played a game that I've pretty much just enjoyed so much that I went through and even though on these very airwaves or podcast waves or whatever, I groused about the dumb shit like the backpacks and all the stuff that you gotta like collectibles. I guess what, guys? I found myself getting every goddamn backpack in this game just because after a while it's like, you know, but it was just, or the collectibles in general, just because after a while it's like, hey, I beat the story, but I'm kind of not done with Spider-Man yet. I kind of want to swing around some more. I want to fight some people. I want to go do some stuff. And I found myself just picking it up and playing it. And the thing that I wasn't prepared for with this game was how much I enjoyed the story that they put together. It is a reimagining of Spider-Man, and they take a lot of existing characters in the Spider-Man universe and make them fit the story they put together in a way that I found incredibly compelling. I think that it's a major accomplishment for a studio to take Spider-Man and make it a story-based game, and this game very much was. You know, there's so many little moments, especially, you know, because I grew up reading Spider-Man comics. I have an affinity for the character. but there's so many little nods that's what they are, little nods that don't take you out of the game. They don't disrupt the universe that they've created. And there's some huge wholesale changes in that game, like, you know, Mary Jane and Jonah and Harry Osborn, and you know, there's some
pretty big difference too.
Yeah, Aunt May and how that story plays out is huge. Octavius and how he comes to be is a major departure, but it all works and it makes these characters relatable. I mean, I loved couch surfing Peter Parker. I thought that was great. Like, you know, when he has to literally chase a box of his shit down in a garbage truck at one point in the game, like, I thought that was awesome. You know, I was like, yeah, this guy's broke as all hell, and it's great, you know. But I think it is a game that they need to build on. The reason it's not higher on the list for me is and I mentioned it on the show before also, but it's the moment when some minor spoilers here, but there's a big prison break and prisoners escape into Manhattan, and that game becomes Arkham City for a while. And it was a major bummer to me because it took the game out of something that I felt was very new and very refreshing and made it very rote real quick. And it was just kind of a bummer to see them kind of go back on that because they didn't need to. And that's really the only reason why this game isn't higher, because it's great. It's such a joy to play. It really, really is.
It sounds like you and Josh both had like Arkham vibes off, just in different ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Out of this game, whether it was combat
I wanted more Arkham. He wanted less Arkham. So, yeah. All right, Shannon.
Number 4 on my list is Forza Horizon 4. So I mean, it was the only game that I bought on the Xbox this year, and I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I'm still enjoying it. It's just a more polished version of the previous model, or of the previous game, which is why I didn't put it higher on the list. I don't really feel like there was much in the way of changes other than, you know, driving through the seasons. You know, but you know, as far as graphically how it looks, it's always a charmer. It's always great to play. It controls well. It you know, it gives me it fixes that itch for like a game where I just have to drive fast. And, you know, it's always a bonus when your wife wants to watch you play the game because you don't have to worry about, you know, hogging up the TV. So it's number 4 on my list.
Okay.
And that soundtrack's like mad soothing too, right? So your Boothang's probably just like kicking it on the couch, like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool here. I'm cool here.
I forgot about that. Game's got such a good soundtrack.
Oh man, I've been messing with it just before we started recording. I've got some of those songs stuck in my head. I wasn't expecting. I'm usually a little pickier when it comes to music, so I'm a fan.
I do wish there was Spotify integration with it though.
That would be cool. Next year.
Yeah. Elena?
Oh, for me, it's Smash. It's Smash. I'm actually this one and my next one are tied, so I'll talk about that a little bit. But Smash for me was a lot of fun just because it's the first one I've really gotten into. This is the first one I've kind of taken seriously, and my God, man, all those characters. How are you going to get bored? Like, I'm happy with my heroes on Overwatch. I'm the type of person who's constantly playing every hero. So this really scratches my itch, man. Like, I can see myself playing this game all of 2019, well beyond then. You know what I mean? It's going to be a game that I play with my friends. I've already played it at parties. It's phenomenal single player. The online's fun besides the frame rate drops. I don't want to really get into that, but it's just a great game. You know, Nintendo polish all around.
Awesome. Yeah. My number 4 is Subnautica.
Nice.
And
yeah, put that on my list of things I need to play from this year.
Man, you're a masochist, aren't you?
Yeah. So Subnautica, now technically the game released this year, but it came out in early access in 2014. But the game was a drastically different game back then. And it evolved with player feedback throughout the years, and they finally released it in January of 2018, and then they released it on consoles in I think it was December at the end of the year. And so I started out playing this game as a dare because the concept of the game scared the hell out of me. And I wanted nothing to. I mean, I saw stuff on this game, and it was just like, yeah, this looks cool, but this looks like something that would just freak the fuck out of me. And there's no way I'm just noping out of this. And the more I saw of it, the more I became fascinated with it. And I'm like, you know what? I think this would be funny if I tried to play this game and live stream it and watch people. I would let people watch me squeal and squirm while I try to play. And so I did. And this was still when we were with the Gaming Outsider. I actually talked to the company. They gave me a copy of the game for free. I explained to them what I wanted to do. They gave me a review copy, and I did it. And I played it for like 3 hours, I think, over live stream. And it took a lot of courage for me to load it up and play it. But when I did, I fell in love with it. And it's a game where I really have to muster up the courage to play it. But when I do, I have so much fun and I'm so engaged in it. And it sucks because when I did that live stream, I did not realize the game had no autosave feature and I lost all that progress. So I put the game away. I just kind of shelved it throughout most of the year, primarily because I didn't want to start over again, but also I was secretly afraid to start the damn game up again because I knew what kind of shit I was going to get myself into with that game. And I picked it back up in December and started playing it a lot more. And that's pretty much all I've been playing this week is Subnautica. And I faced my fears. I went in there and I went against a Reaper in that game, them freaky fucking things that are like huge in that game. And I took my knife out. I'm like, let's tango, bitch, and I went in there, but I'm like 6 hours into the game now, I think. And I love exploring the ocean. I love the way the game makes you feel terrified when you go somewhere you've never been before and you don't know what's out there and what's going to happen to you. There's always that fear of you're never safe in this game. And while it starts off and it can be a quite a beautiful game to play and it seems really soothing and relaxing, you find out really quick that there's some frightening ass shit in this game. And the game knows what it's doing. This is not an accident. Like the game was designed to prey on your fears of the unknown and the deep water and the dark and all kinds of stuff. And they even program AI on some of the creatures to just make you feel like you're on edge all the time. And it's the only survival game that I've played that I've enjoyed. It's the only crafting game I've played that I enjoyed because every time I craft something new, I can get a little further. I can do it's sort of like a Metroidvania game. You get that power up. So like now I can go here, but it's like you have to find and craft the stuff to get that stuff. And now you can go do this and now you can go do that. And it just gives it a different feeling than most games with a lot of crafting does. And I don't know, man, like it's a game that shocks me to my core and freaks me out when I play it, but I'm also at the same time loving every minute of it. And I think that game is severely underrated. The game is performed really well. It's sold really well. It's done good for that company. But I think a lot of people kind of just chalk it up as some PC survival indie game and just kind of shrug it off. And I don't think you guys should do that. It's a game that I think should be played. Even if you're like me and you have thalassophobia, you're terrified of the ocean and sea creatures and shit, you should still play this game because that actually adds an element to the game that makes it even more exciting to play, strangely. But yeah, Subnautica is fantastic. It should not be missed. It's my number 4 this year.
Dang. Awesome. I was watching Jordan play some of it for he was live streaming it, and that game is not it's comforting so I first started watching it and I was like, oh, this is kind of nice, like kind of you feel comfortable. And then he went to a certain area and I was like, I don't feel the same as I felt just a couple seconds. Why do I feel that way? And I couldn't figure it out. And the next thing you know, he's getting attacked by some shit. And I'm just like, no, I'm good. Bye.
Yeah.
So if that's why I wasn't on the stream for very long, Jordan, my bad. I got scaled.
Yeah, see, I watch his streams too when he plays that game because I'm waiting for the freaky shit to happen, and he keeps avoiding it because he sees it like ahead of him. Like he'll spot something that it's about to happen. He goes no, and he turns around and goes the opposite direction. Damn it, just go for it.
Right? There's just something. Yeah, there's just something about watching somebody play like a game that puts you and them kind of on edge because you're in it together and you're just like, oh man, do you feel weird? I feel weird. This is weird.
Yeah.
It's a fun experience.
I watched him the first time he saw like the silhouette of a Reaper in that game, like in the distance. He's like, oh, fuck this. And it's like, it was really funny. Nope. Yeah. I mean, when I play the game, every time I'm in an area where I know those things can spawn, like it just puts you on edge, like hardcore.
I just press pause and leave the room.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, that the emotions that game can get out of you is very unique.
Yeah,
so that's why I love it. All right, number 3, Zach.
Number 3 for me is a game we've already discussed, Forza Horizon 4.
Oh, okay.
And the only thing I'll add to our prior discussions is it's the best Forza Horizon they've made, and every single one of them is really, really good. The weather effects, while on the surface, and when I saw the presentation at E3, I'm like, oh, this is some chintzy BS that isn't really going to matter. Except when you play the game, that totally matters. Like, it gets you out of cars and into other cars, which is a major problem that franchise has had. I can't just stay in the one car for the entire game anymore. You need to upgrade. You need to find new cars. You need to try other things, because you will lose if you just stick with the summer car in the winter. It doesn't work. And I think that it was a very clever way for them to solve one of their major problems, which is a game with hundreds of cars and you end up using 2. So it's a game I keep going back to. I keep playing. It's my game of, I have nothing else to do. Well, I'll play some Forza. It's the comfort food of gaming for me for this year. And I think it is incredible to look at. It runs amazing. The music is good. The effects are great. The big boss races are super fun. You can't say enough good things about it. It's the best game Microsoft released all year, and it's stunning. It's great.
Okay, cool. Shannon, number 3.
My number 3 is Dragon Quest XI. It was a good JRPG. It was a good, just traditional comfort food style, like sit down, like what you're getting into. The graphics are great. The story is fun. It was a very I don't know how you would put it. It like brings you back to like a simpler, like,
nostalgic.
Nostalgic. That's a good thing. Is like it just brings you back to, like, you just remember playing this and being like out of like a happy, like, to me, being in a happy spot, And so I think for that, like, it carries a lot of that, like, just the simplistic feels to it. There's not a lot to do as far as combat. It's turn-based, so everybody's, takes their turn. Your characters, they gel well together when they have their special moves. So it was just a fun game. I still haven't beaten it yet. I'm very close to the end, but I just enjoyed the hell out of it. So this is my number 3 spot.
Okay, Elena.
This is tied for me with Smash. It is Pokemon Let's Go, and it was going to be higher on the list before I bought and played the game. But it's not a bad thing. This is on my top 5, and it definitely deserves to be on my top 5. But I was, I guess I went into Pokemon with a different mentality or line of thinking. This iteration was a vast departure from previous games, and I'm still slowly getting used to that. I think I'm just having some growing pains, or rather the game is, where it's vastly different than what I was prepared for, and getting used to that is difficult to a certain extent, but it's also very rewarding. Like Shannon was mentioning with the ball integration, that makes it fun when I'm not at home, when I'm not with my Switch, when I don't have it readily accessible. It's like playing 2 games at once that all kind of become one game, and that innovation is really unique. But sometimes for me personally with Nintendo, and I know it's going to sound like I want to have my cake and eat it too, a little bit of innovation goes a long way. And sometimes, especially with the Pokemon games, they throw too many things at me at once, and that's kind of the vibe I was getting with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. But it is a gorgeous game. It has that Nintendo polish like crazy. I'm having a wonderful time playing it. I'm actually kind of intentionally playing it slowly. It's funny that Zach mentioned taking, what do I want to do when I'm not playing something? It's play Forza. So in between playing Forza and playing, Smash, when I want to play this, I want to play that, I'll go back to playing Pokemon. And that's one thing I'm really enjoying about this game, is just the replayability and being able to, set it down and pick it back up. So I wanted it to be higher, but it's not, and it's still a great game. So it don't matter none. It's on my top. It's tied for top 4, top 3. So be it.
Okay, cool. My number 3 is Astrobot Rescue Mission. So that to me, I mean, I love the little demo that they released with PSVR when it first came out. Like, I thought that was one of the coolest uses of VR I've ever seen. And now that they made a full-fledged game out of it, and they not only like expanded on that concept, but just blew it out of the water. That to me is one of the best platformers I've played in recent years. I mean, I even liked it more than Mario Odyssey, and I was pretty big on that game. The use of VR is insane. It just gives a completely different spin and perspective on the platformer, and in really exciting ways. And even if it was outside of VR, like, the game just has this Nintendo feel to it that I feel not even Nintendo has been able to deliver.
Do you mean do you mean just in like level of polish, or
no, like in
like
design?
whimsy? Oh, okay.
Whimsy.
Yeah.
Yeah, with design.
Okay. Whimsy.
Yeah, whimsy's a great word for it. Yeah, just that it feels like it was something that should have been on a Nintendo platform. The Sony Japan just blew this thing out. They just knocked it out of the park, and it's an amazing platformer, and it takes you to some really cool places I've never seen a platformer go, just because of the use of VR. It has incredibly fun boss fights because of the use of VR again. Like, it's a game that wouldn't work with VR. But at the same time, like, if they made a non-VR version out of it and it still retained a lot of the magic that this game has, it would still be a killer game. So that's why that's my number 3.
Yeah. I will say that is the title more than any other, which is weird. But that's the title that got me to consider picking up a VR set, because I have seen so many people rave about it, and Josh in particular, but just rave about that game, and I'm like, that's something I kind of need to see. I just need to see it.
It sucks because you will never understand how cool it is until you play it and experience it. Because I can sit here and talk about it all day long, but you just can't get it until you play it. I mean, it just doesn't make sense until you experience it. So it's a hard one to really recommend to people, because you have to spend, $200+ on a headset to play it. But it's so good, man. It's so good. All right, Zach, number 2, man. We're getting towards the end.
Yeah, number 2. It's a game that I was looking forward to playing for years, since it's been in early access, and it finally hit and did not disappoint in any way. And that game is Dead Cells. Goddamn, this game. It is so good. It's like, it's 6 different kinds of games all smashed into one thing. It's something on paper that you would think it would never work. And it does, and it works on every level. Everything in that game is perfectly balanced. The runs you make are astounding. The feeling that game gives you when you hit a great run and get to a boss and beat a boss it's tops. I don't know if I've had better moments this year than beating some of the bosses I've beaten Dead Cells, and I haven't beat the game. Like, I'm one of those people where I kind of like what Elena was alluding to earlier. My skill, my hands don't do what I want them to do to beat that game anymore. Like, and that doesn't matter. Like, I still play Dead Cells. Like, I still love Dead Cells. Like, I bounced off of games like that are traditionally harder, like the Dark Souls games or things of that nature, just because, like, you get to a point where it's not fun. Like, I can get to this part, but I can't progress past it because I'm just not good enough. I will never be good enough. And it becomes not fun. It takes you out of the experience. That has never happened to me with this game. I never start up Dead Cells with the expectation that I'm going to win, that I'm going to beat it. But I'm always looking forward to it. I always have a great time with it. I mean, there's so many different weapons. There's so many different build outs. There's so many different ways you can go in the game that it keeps it fresh. There's never a time where I feel like I've wasted my time playing the game, and I've never beat it.
That's rare. That's very hard to find.
I literally can't think of another game I've had that feeling about. I can't. Yeah. And it's, God damn it, it's just so good. It's just so good. Like, I can't get over how pitch perfect that game is. I mean, I can't say enough about it. I know more people are going to talk about it, so I'll stop. But Dead Cells, you guys. Whew, that game.
Sweet. Shannon, number 2.
My number 2 is God of War. I enjoyed it a lot. I liked everything about it. I don't know what else I can build upon that everybody else hasn't really, that Zach hasn't reiterated already. So I'm just gonna leave it there. It's fun. Go play it. If you haven't played it, you're living under a rock. But
God of War was one of those games where it's like, yeah. That was my number 2 too, is God of War, man. Like, it's just one of those games where, yeah, power, bro, solidarity. And it just came down to personal preference for me between this and number 1, because God of War, it was the best AAA title release of this year, in my opinion. It just had the most. I can't quite put it into words. We had our moments to talk about it on previous episodes, but there's a lot of love in that game, and just story wise, it's falling into a little bit of a trope with the whole dad thing. We've seen it in Last of Us, and we've seen it in all other sorts of games where you kind of resume the role of being like a dad, but they just hit every note perfectly. Like, everything about that game, whether it was the combat, whether it was the plot, the story, the dialogue, everything was just perfect, at least to me. I didn't run into any game-breaking glitches. I didn't run into any problems that, altered my gameplay experience and made it less fun for me. It was just, from top to bottom, a good game that played well, controlled well, great story, great environment, great music, everything. I have zero complaints about that game, and I had so much fun playing it, and I get to go back and play more. I haven't killed those Valkyries yet, and I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try.
You're gonna try, because
if I can't beat Dead Cells, I can't beat these fucking Valkyries, bro. Yeah.
That axe throw was so just that thunk.
It's never not the best feeling.
Yeah. And then
60% of the time, it's the best every time.
Yeah,
yep, exactly.
And every time, and anytime you can just say "boy," and everybody else knows the joke, like, it's just
that was the meme for like 4 months, man. Just like everything, and that's another thing too. Is like, culturally, it was very well received, and like it was very integral in our lives for a couple of weeks at the very least.
Totally.
Like outside of the console, outside of your bedroom, you're like with friends. Just yeah, that's the good stuff, man.
Cool.
Josh, what about you?
My number 2 is also God of War.
Hey!
Nice. It's and you know what? Between this and my number 1, I kept flip-flopping between the two.
Oh.
So this was my number 1 game for a short amount of time before I kept flip-flopping it back and forth between my actual number 1. So it's a very tight race with those two. But God of War is it's a game that took a franchise that I liked, and it spun it on its head and did something different with it that it desperately needed. The game, as a father, the game just clicked with me. It made me feel for the events that were going on in that game. I thought the game was very emotional, even though it didn't want to like make you shed man tears or anything like that, but like just it made you feel things that is hard to explain, I guess, because there's times I didn't agree with what Kratos did with his son, and there's times that I did, and then there's times when I didn't, but yet it made sense later on and stuff like that. It was just a side of this character that we've never seen before, and just the father and son aspect added a dynamic to the gameplay that I thought was very unique. And like you guys said, that axe throw, man, that combat was just so damn visceral and so much fun. It reminded me of Resident Evil 4. To where the combat was so much fun that it just carried that game through the entire thing. And that was the way it was with God of War as well. I can't think of a stronger game mechanically that came out this year than God of War. I loved every minute of it. I thought the ending could have been a little better, but I'm not going to complain about that. But my only complaint, the only reason why this game isn't my number 1 right now is because of those repetitive boss fights. That really was, that always was a problem with me with the game. The fact that I have fought this boss already, but now he just shoots ice instead of fire, I fought that damn boss probably 4 or 5 times within that game, and I don't know if they ran out of resources and they just had to palette swap a boss and throw him back in there or what, just to get the game finished. But at the end of the day, they were still a lot of fun to fight, and it really wasn't that big of a deal, and I still loved it to death. So that was my number 2.
Well, I'll piggyback off that because God of War is my number 1.
Okay.
I
had that. That's what I had that. I knew that was coming.
Yeah. I mean, if you've paid attention at all
before that game even came out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it took me about a week worth of playing to be like, I don't know if anything's beating this year for me. Just to expand a little bit on what you said, Josh. As a dad, there are there were a lot of conversations they had in that game that, and I think that's really for me what made it the best game of the year. And it's insane to say it about God of War, but it's the quiet moments in that game that really made the game for me.
It's the only game where you can ride in a boat and it makes it awesome just to listen.
And you don't want to get out of the boat because
Yeah.
Mimir is like the best character ever, and I just want to hear the stories. But you know, it's really you take the bird's eye view of the story, and it's a story of the tragic nature of fathers and sons. Going back to Kratos' own father and his relationship with Atreus, and you know the fact that this situation, the death of Atreus' mother, is kind of, it's forced on both of them. Neither Atreus nor Kratos wants the other to really be there in the beginning, and they're going to take these ashes and they're going to do this together because that's what she wanted them to do, and they're both beholden to it. And the journey that they go on, and the nature of it, where you really, Kratos doesn't want his son to be him, and the nature of that speaks to me very, very strongly. And going through the game, you learn that Kratos is being the way he is to his son to protect him in a sense. He doesn't want, you know, one of the big turns when Atreus learns that he's a god and is like, well, fuck these mortals, I'm gonna do god shit now, like I don't even care. And the lesson Kratos has to teach him of like, no, gods are awful, gods are bad people. That's why I never told you you were a god. Like every god is the worst person you've ever met in your life, and you're better than that, and you don't need to be that person. There are a lot of little conversations in that game that I have had variants of with my son in his short life, that it was enough of those moments that spoke to me. And it helps that it's the most beautiful game I think that came out this year. The art in this game is second to none. I mean, that fucking world serpent looks so goddamn good. Like, you know, and when he was cool. Like, yeah. And when, you know, he moves in the lake and all the water lowers down and everything looks the way it's exposed, and just being out on the lake, and the character designs, and when you fight, you know, the Norse gods, and how that all plays out. And, you know, but when you go through the game, every father-son relationship in that game is horrible. You know, Thor's sons are the worst. You know, Odin's relationship with his kids is awful. Like Kratos' relationship with Zeus is horrible. The best father-son relationship in the entire game is Kratos and Atreus, and that says something. And I think it's when you take a character like Kratos, who we've played multiple games where he solves problems with big knives and ripping things in half with his hands, and you take him and put him in situations that he can't punch his way out of. There is no fight that he can get into to fix this. And I think that in itself made this game incredibly powerful to me just to play through, because all of us as dads, sorry, Elena, but all of us as dads, you come across problems all the time that you can't fight your way out of. There's no physical solution to some problems that you come across. And to see a character like Kratos have to deal with that, it spoke to me in a lot of ways. And so for all of that, that is why it's my game of the year.
Awesome. Yeah. Shannon?
Well, I'm going to disagree with you, Josh, because Spider-Man is my #1 game this year.
So, wow.
I mean, I love that game. Like, I know, like, I was a little slow to accept it in the beginning when it had first come out, but yeah, it got its hooks in me, and it's just something about flying through the city and being, like, you know, being Spider-Man, and the fighting didn't get to me. The graphics were amazing. The costumes were awesome. I mean, like, you know, the whole, just, I mean, the whole litany of things that you could do in that game, as far as collecting and doing all the side missions, and you know, doing the Black Cat mission, or I think it was a Black Cat. Yeah, doing her missions. You know, seeing all getting to do all those fights, especially with Doc Ock and all that, it was the perfect game for me at the perfect time. It was a good escape. It was a good way to get away. There was enough lighthearted humor to go with the drama of the situation, the gravity of the situation in the game. I do think the ending was a little quick. Like, it was a little quick to end, but overall it didn't detract from the hours and hours and hours of fun I had exploring every inch of that city and seeing what I could do, you know, how fast I could get from point A to point B, what tricks I could do, like what enemies I could take down with what combinations, and just trying to get like every just bit of enjoyment out of that game I could. So, I mean, as far as just the overall attitude I had when playing the game, because God of War, while it was great in all those aspects that Zach had just mentioned, like, it felt heavy. The game felt heavy. Like, it was a more serious adventure to go on. Whereas with Spider-Man, while it did have its serious moments, it felt more lighthearted. It was brighter. It was more engaging to me as far as like the enjoyment my senses got out of it. So, you know, with all that in total, like, when I was making this list, that was the first game that jumped out, you know, to me. And I think that says a lot with what I've played in the year. And that's why it deserves my #1 spot.
Sweet. All right, Elena.
And so, I hate to admit that my game of the year is a game I haven't beaten yet. I've talked about it, you know, several times, but it's Dead Cells or No Cells, I would say.
It is. Yes, yeah, Dead Cells.
It's fucking Dead Cells, bro. This game is a fire under my ass that I have not experienced as a gamer in years. And I really mean I don't know if I've ever had a game do this to me. I've had this game make me want to throw my Switch against the wall. Dude, it's just ran me through so many different emotions, and it's so fulfilling. Like, when just like Zach was saying, when you do well in that game, it's because you did very well. Like, it's thanks to you that you're succeeding in this game. It's not thanks to, you know, some bullshit game mechanic that's helping you or holding your hand, you know, like other games have been known to do, whether you make so many mistakes so many times, Nintendo, you know, and it's not, I'm just saying, it's not a forgiving game, and I respect it and I love it for that, because, you know, if you're not doing a great job, like, you know, technically, if you're not playing well, this game will kick your ass. And I have a lot of friends who have not beat this game because they said it was quote unquote too hard. And it's not that it's too hard. It's that maybe it might be for them too demanding. And this game was just asking me for more and more. And I'm like, yeah, bro, let's do it. I'm here 6 months later and I still haven't beat you, but you know, I'll be back tomorrow. And that's why this is my game of the year, because it's a game that I know I bet even when I beat this, I'm going to be playing it. Like, it's because there's so many different options. There's so much fun to be had, but it's still at its core such a simple indie game, and that's why, I mean, a AAA title is lovely and it's phenomenal, but it gets a little bit less credit when you think about how many people have worked to create this game. And then you think about how many people have worked to create a game like Dead Cells, and it still has just as much of an impact, if not more, on me as a gamer and on, you know, how much fun I'm having. Mm-hmm. And that says so much. That's such a beautiful thing. So this is definitely a publisher, a dev that I'm going to be watching in the future, but I don't know if I'm ever going to find a game quite like Dead Cells. And I'm kind of sad about it, because it's just one of those games that just lit a fire in my soul. And I love that, man. It just completely reminded me, besides the podcast and this entire experience overall all year, it's just been reminding me of, like, damn, this is what it feels like to really get into a game, to really feel it, and to, like, really want to beat it. So, and part of the reason I feel like I haven't beat that game, and this is my excuse and I'm sticking to it, is because I don't want it to end. Like, I do not want that game to be over with. I do not want to shelf this game. I just want to keep playing it. But I also can't beat it, so I love that I'm ending on, like, a filthy casual fucking kind of note.
Whatever helps you sleep at night, Elaine.
My game of the year is yeah. We'll stick with that. That suits me well.
Okay. All right, so it's my turn here to flip it on its head. And
I want to do a drum roll, but I can't.
Yeah. I'm going to be the controversial one here. My game of the year is the Tetris Effect.
Get the fuck out.
Oh, my dad is so mad at you.
Weird. Yeah. And I'll tell you why.
Preach, please.
Yeah, so Tetris is a game we've all played for many, many years, right? And I've never ever been the biggest Tetris fan. Yeah, I played Tetris when I was a kid on my Game Boy, like everyone else. But I've never been a big puzzle game guy, and it wasn't until maybe about 3 or 4 years ago that I actually started to kind of get into the genre. And Luminous is one of the reasons why, because I love that game so much, and this game is made by the same creator. I love the Tetris effect because it is the only game this year that made me feel the things that this game made me feel. I go into this game and it's like a trance. It's like I'm in another world. It's like it's sort of like a euphoric feeling, like I'm on drugs or something. Like I'm going into some kind of state of euphoria. Is about the best way I can describe it. And the music is absolutely amazing. Why they have not released a soundtrack yet for this thing, I do not know, because I would buy it in a heartbeat. But it's the combination of the addictive Tetris gameplay in probably the best iteration I've ever played, mixed with this amazing visual experience that they put forth on you, and one of the best soundtracks I've heard this year. The music mixed with the visuals, mixed with the gameplay, mixed with the sound effects that you're creating as you're playing, all creates this roller coaster ride of emotions that I have never had a video game put me on before. And I can honestly say that not only did this game surpass Luminous, which is one of my top 10 favorite games of all time, but they just replaced Luminous gameplay with Tetris, did all the things I love that Luminous does, but significantly better. And it takes you on an emotional roller coaster ride. And it's incredible in VR. It's incredible outside of VR. I love all the challenges that this game throws at you. I keep wanting to come back to it. You guys have no idea how hard it is for me to boot up my PS4 and try to play a game and go past this game on my menu and not want to load it up and play it. Is one of the most played games I've played this year. And I'm going to be playing it well into 2019 because I just want to put it on journey mode and start from the beginning and get to the end and just go through that experience over again and over again. I can sit and play this game. I could be in the shittiest mood and be in the worst possible human state imaginable, and I can sit and play this game and forget all about that stuff. And for me, God of War couldn't do that for me. Astrobot couldn't do that for me. None other game this year could do that for me. And it's just the sum of all of its parts making this amazing experience is why that game is my number one game this year.
And I like that too, because it's like everybody's number one was like for their own personal experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be honest, dude, Tetris Effect won Game of the Year for a couple of places. What it was, Eurogamer and like Giant Bomb or something like that. Like, you're not the only one, man. Yeah. My dad is fucking, I wish he was here to like ream-you because he was going off on the Slack, just like, you can't have a Game of the Year be, a 20-year-old. No, that I completely disagree with my father. Like, your Game of the Year can be whatever you want it to be, as long as it came out this year. Like, I could have picked a mobile game and nobody can take that from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, absolutely. And
I played the demo. It's phenomenal. Like, it creates a euphoric effect for you. That's fucking groundbreaking. You know what I mean? Like, for it to have that powerful of reaction, that's saying something.
Yeah, and some of the excuses I've heard is that like the amount of effort put in this game is nothing compared to something like God of War, and the love and attention hasn't been put in. I totally disagree with that too. This game, they put a lot of heart and soul into this thing. You can tell.
You can feel it when you play it. I played the demo and I could feel it. Yeah.
I mean, this is a game, like, when I hit that last stage, like, that just the last song, the last stage alone took me on, like, a journey that I'll never forget. And I've beaten this game 4 or 5 times already, and I haven't finished it on expert yet because it's really fucking hard, but I've gotten towards the end of it on expert, but I've beaten it on all the other difficulties, and I love just running through this game over and over and over again. There's a theater mode where you can just sit back and enjoy the lights and the music and not actually play Tetris.
Oh, cool.
And somebody recorded all the songs in video form through that on YouTube, and I made a YouTube like playlist of them. I'll just listen to the songs as I'm at work doing stuff because I love the music in this game so much, and it gets such an emotional reaction out of me. And I can't think of any game that could do that for me ever, let alone this year. And that's why I had to pick that as my number one.
You should post that on the Facebook group so I can listen to it, please, because that sounds amazing.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, definitely.
That opening song, still, it's one of the best moments of the year for me. That opening number.
I see, and I would argue that the final song is even better than that.
I haven't seen it yet, so that very well may be true, but
it's the same vocalist.
Okay.
I mean, the same group did all the songs. They're like called Hydraulic, I think. Cool. And Mitsuguchi, the guy that created the game, like produced all their music for them, but they created the entire soundtrack. So it's the same vocalist, same band, and everything. But but they closed the game with this song, and I listen to this song over and over again on YouTube. I wish they would release a soundtrack for it because
it's amazing. They haven't yet.
There's a sampler that you get if you ordered it, but all the best songs aren't on it. So it sucks. There's so many songs I wish that were on it because they're edited down to be shorter and not as long. Because a lot of these games, if you listen to them, they're full length. They're like 7-8 minutes long. So, and there's a lot of repetitive parts to them because they got to have the gameplay in there.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I love this game so much. I want to go home. I want to go play it right now. Like I'd love if it was on the Switch that I could play this game on the go.
Yeah.
But I heard that the game is really taxing on the PS3 because of all the particle effects in place.
PS4, you mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, PS4, and that's why it probably won't make it to the Switch. But we can dream. All right, so that's our top 10. So now what I want to do real quick is I want to have a debate because we got to pick a game of the year for that Pixel Life. So we got to pick one, guys, and we're gonna battle it out right now. What do you guys think our game of the year should be?
You know what I think?
I'm already conceding Tetris Effect. I know that's not going to win here, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there. I'm just going to go with God of War.
Okay, I was gonna say God of War. I was gonna count on I think we should do like 1, 2, 3, and then because I think it's all the same. I think we all agree.
Shannon.
Well, I think God of War is high. I mean, Dead Cells was also a pretty strong competitor. It was also on all of our lists, just in different areas. But I mean, I'm fine with God of War.
I think, as much as I love God of War and it's my personal number one, I don't know if Dead Cells loses here. I don't.
But I want to give it to Dead Cells, but God of War was number 2 for 3 out of 4 of us. Like,
yeah.
Thinking logistically, like that makes the most sense.
Dead Cells was like my number 8.
It was pretty low on the list.
Yeah.
Trust me, Dead Cells is in my heart, boo. It'll always be there.
I love right Dead Cells. Don't get me wrong, but I think God of War is
I mean, it'd be God of War and Dead Cells would be our number 1 and our number 2.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. Yeah. Because I was thinking,
before we wrap this up, any love out there for Forza?
Forza can be on 3. Forza can be 3 for me, but not Forza, 1.
But it's not. I mean, what did it do new that was enough to give you that title?
I completely agree with Shannon on that because I played the hell out of Forza Horizon 3. And the game is pretty much the same thing, but with the season stuff.
And that's where I'm kind of at, though. But everyone I know played so much Forza, right? Like it's one of those things. Like, sure, it's more Forza that I played 80-something hours of. Like, okay, that counts at some point.
But God of War, you play for the most part until you beat, and then you shelf it. A game like Forza, you're going back. You bought that game specifically so you can play it for a long period. You know what I mean? Put 80 hours.
But it's also like the Madden effect. Like, people are going to buy Madden. Does it make it on any top 10 list? No. But are people playing the crap out of it?
Well, shit, that says a lot about Forza because Forza got on our top 10 list. Now, the thing about God of War compared to Forza is Forza was very similar to previous iterations, and God of War was way different than any other iteration. Like, it really took a fat departure. Yeah. And I know that even having played previous games, like this was the more, this was the newer God of War. This was the more dad God of War,
However, with God of War, if they actually came out with like a DLC where like it was a precursor to where you found out like it was one of the chicks that like Kratos banged in like God of War 1, 2, or 3, and then he had to like get her out of town, and like then they had a kid in like this remote village that was like, yeah, if they did that whole thing, yeah, I would definitely hold it a lot higher.
Dude, now I just want a God of War dating sim or some shit. Like, oh, dude, Kratos, who do you want to bang?
I choose you.
What was that game? Dream Dad, but with Kratos.
Oh yeah, what was it? Dream Daddy.
Dream Daddy?
Yeah. Oh god, I call Kratos Dream Daddy. It's cool.
She's got a Kratos body pillow at her house.
Oh, Kratos waifu, right?
Yeah, right.
So we're doing Dead Cells 2, God of War 1. Is that where we're at?
Yeah,
and then Forza 3. We can do Forza 3.
I think God of War should be it. If you ask me,
I think so too. Yeah.
I mean, I personally am absolutely fine with that. It was my personal game of the year. It's just I find it a little surprising that everyone else is just like, yeah, God of War. You know, because it's
the only one that we all agreed on that was
God of War was 1 for you. God of War was 2 for the rest of us. So in theory,
and we all had different game of the years. So I mean,
which is dope.
4 of us aren't going to win this. So, yeah. So,
but yeah, I think logistically that makes the most sense. So we got God of War game of the year, and then we got Dead Cells, and then we got Forza 4, which is sounds about right. Yeah,
those are our top 3 games. Then, or is it a done deal? We stamping it?
Are we doing it?
Stick a fork in that turkey. It's done.
All right. Let's do
all
it.
right. Hell
all
yeah.
Right, cool. All right. So 2018 official Pixel Life Game of the Year is God of War.
In the books. Badass.
Yep. Should be Tetris Effect, but that's okay.
Fuck that shit.
I'll get my dad on. Hold on.
Don't make me get my shredder back out.
I'll call him right now. Don't make me get my shredder.
All right, so we've been running pretty late, but we'll run through these really quick, just as a very quick year in review, sort of as our week in review here. What are your guys' New Year's resolutions? Don't have to be gaming related, just anything.
I want to run a marathon.
Whoa, like 4K, 2K, what?
A marathon.
What's a marathon?
26.2 miles.
Oh my god. Okay, I don't know how that shit works. I'm fucking fat and lazy, clearly. Want to run a marathon? What, you want to run like 3 miles? Cool. Go for it. Better run that marathon. All right, well, y'all learned something new about me today.
That was pretty funny.
That was great. That was so good.
I'm gonna blow up. Oh,
Elena, to be fair, I did not know it was that long either. So
thanks. I'm just wiping it off my brow right now.
It's the millennial power.
Or lack thereof, Jesus, thank God.
But millennials run marathons, confirmed. Put that on Fox News.
So what, like 3 miles?
3-mile marathon? Okay, I need to get away from this. So my gym closed on the 21st, and I haven't been to the gym in like all of December. So definitely getting back there because I miss that stuff, man. We got Dan and all sorts of people posted on the Facebook. Oh man, y'all are inspiring me to get back to the gym, but
same here.
I don't have a membership right now. My membership ceased to exist. So between that and going back to school and this whole promotion shit, I got a lot of New Year's resolutions, which is out of character for me. I'm usually not the type to do stuff like that, but you know, I'm all for newness and new goals and such and blah da da. But yeah, getting this belly away. I ate too many egg rolls this year. Too much turkey, too much good food. So I need to get rid of this gut.
Nice. All right. What about you, Zach?
Main New Year's resolution is just to get a new job. I'm at a point in my career, in my life, that a change is necessary, and so it's the thing I'm actively working towards. So that's my main thing.
All right. I took that journey last year and been better for it. So absolutely, a nice new job is nice for the change. So
exactly.
What's yours, Josh?
For me, as I just want to be better financially. Like I mean, I'm good financially, but like I spend too much money on stupid shit, and that's part of the reasons why we're making some changes to this podcast, because I think we all spend way too much money on games that is a little unnecessary, and we don't give the games the coverage and that they deserve, and we aren't as passionate about a lot of this stuff we buy, you know. And it's not just games; it's a lot of things for me too.
Embrace your inner Zackle.
Yeah,
you don't need that shit.
I need to be a tightwad, a little bit more. So I think this year I'm going to try to save up more money. I want to put more money in my house. which is a really big investment. You know, I want to do that. So I just want to be a little more frugal.
Well, if you ever want to sell that cabinet behind you, you can just send it my way.
Oh no, that thing's getting modded.
It's getting modded. Oh hell yeah!
Yes. We'll talk about that next week. I actually will review that thing for you guys, and I'll tell you the project that I've just started working on. So we'll get to that next year. But
nice.
What about you, Shannon?
You had the marathon.
I want to run a marathon.
Yeah, you started
a 3-mile marathon, bro.
Do you guys have any favorite movies this year?
Spider-Verse.
I still need to see that. I still need to see that.
It's so good. It's so good. It's gonna, dude. It's really groundbreaking. It's definitely gonna like forge a path for like animated films for years, like years and years to come. It's like one of the most innovative and beautiful, like stylistic, like animated films I've seen in recent memory. It's incredible. Wow. I also want.
You did something right this time with movies, huh?
Yeah, I know. I was surprised. I want a Spider-Verse game. Do it again. Just do it again. I know they're not gonna because we just had Spider-Man this year, but I would love a Spider-Verse game with that stylistic, like aesthetic choice. It would be so fun. It would be so fun to play.
Okay. I've always been a huge film buff, but ever since I had a kid, like that's changed a lot just because I can't get to the movie theater as much as I do. And so since I have such a big hobby for gaming, like it's a lot of my time goes to that instead of actually sitting down watching movies. But this year I actually got to watch a lot more movies than I have in previous years since my son was born. For me, Annihilation is the best movie I've seen this year. I love that movie to death. It's so cool. And my second favorite would probably be Hereditary. That game was movie. That movie was incredibly creepy and weird and out there and uncomfortable.
Up.
But it was really good though. Yeah. So anybody else?
I'd throw Black Panther on that list. Black Panther was
killer. Yeah.
It was a great movie.
Yeah, it really, really was.
I'd have to go with Deadpool 2.
Oh, so fun to watch. I got a little drunk watching that one.
Yeah,
Infinity War was I mean, all the Marvel ones were really good this year. Even Ant-Man and Wasp was great, I thought.
I haven't seen that one yet. I mean, hell, Aquaman was awesome, and I was really surprised about that.
Yeah, I want to see that. that.
Aquaman's a lot of fun. What about albums? Any albums this year? I know, Zach, you're a big music buff like I am. What's your favorite album this year?
There were some actually pretty good punk records this year. My favorites would probably be The Beths released an album called Future Me Hates Me, which is really good. The Interrupters, which is Tim Armstrong from Rancid produces them, and they kind of had that like almost Rancid like ska punk thing working with a female lead singer. That's the album that probably got the most play in my house this year because my son loves a bunch of that stuff, and it's really catchy and really good. And then there's a British band called Idols that they released an album this year called Joy as an Act of Resistance, and it's funny because the lead singer kind of sounds like Lemmy from Motorhead, and the music goes all over the place, but so much of their songs are just catchy and really good, and you'll catch yourself singing them. And if you want to go check out a track, look up Danny and Delco. That's their like big song off their album, if there is a big song, but it's the best one off the album. It's killer stuff. Can't recommend Idols enough. But yeah, those are probably the top 3 for me that I listened to this year.
Okay. I actually thought this was a really killer year for hip hop. I loved that Black Panther soundtrack that
was great.
Kendrick Lamar made. I thought that thing from start to finish was fantastic. Lupe Fiasco released an album this year that was like a concept sort of artsy album that was all about like slavery, and that was, I thought, was a killer album. I really liked that a lot. And then there's a rapper, a fairly newer rapper named Juice WRLD that released this good riddance. Was it good? Something good riddance. I forgot the name of the full album. And it's like basically a breakup album. And I thought it was a really like haunting kind of interesting hip hop album that I thought was really good too. But aside from those, my favorite album this year was that Church's album. Oh. I thought that Love Is Dead album, I thought that was fantastic. I still listen to that album. Really, really good stuff. Elena, I know you're a big music person. What do you?
Man, let's see. If you're looking for some local music and you live in the Bay, there's this band named Covet. They released an EP, Efflorescence, C or it's hard to pronounce, but if you look up Covet and you're looking for any type of like instrumental music, no lyrics, I would heavily recommend that. It's weird to say this because I don't really care for this band, but Hello Goodbye, which you associate with like MySpace sceeny weenie music, released
Sceeny weenie.
big time because I was that kid. But they released this album called Solely Natural, so S apostrophe and then only natural, 2 words, and it's like sexy and funky, and like I really wasn't expecting it, and I went into it almost wanting to hate it, and I fell in love with it. It's a little repetitive, it's a little poppy, but it's got a lot of like just soul, which is hard to believe because it's like this skinny white guy, you know what I mean? So I wasn't expecting something like so like viscerally like kind of sexy. It's a little sexy. And then I usually don't gravitate towards female vocalists, but this year I listened to a lot without realizing it. And one of my favorite bands that I didn't expect is a band named Hop Along, and they released a new album called Bark Your Head Off Dog. And I've never heard a band like them before, and I don't think I'll ever hear a band like them after this, but I would just recommend listening to that album. I can't say much about it because I can't describe it. And then TTNG, if you guys are into like any kind of like math rock technical style music out there, they released an acoustic instrumental album of their 2008 album that came out, Animals, and it's pretty intense. It's like a symphony, you know, and a whole orchestral band kind of playing, you know, math rock, and you wouldn't expect it. And it's something unique. It's left an impression on me. And then Golfer, Dog Bless, and that's all I got. And if you want more, actually just hit me up because we can go forever.
All right, Shannon, you got anything?
I haven't bought an album in ages. Like
an album, but
no, but I'm just saying, like
Spotify
even buying like a whole like or like having Spotify. I don't have Spotify. But having like a whole like album dedicated to one person. No, I'm like a vulture. I'll just like pick like one song from like people that I like or people I don't like. But I can't really think of anything this year that like really stood out. Like,
oh man, I want to make you a playlist so bad.
Go for it. Like, I mean,
Yes.
I kind of go through like, you know, those like genres more than anything else. And like this year, it just seemed like with all my like gym activities that it was just more like house and like dance music and stuff. So
for sure.
I listen to a lot of that stuff. A lot of
that'll
like
keep you in the mood.
electro dance pop
Like,
kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even then it was just like Marshmello and like
I love Marshmello
Chainsmokers and and like people like that. Like those were pretty much my bands, but like I didn't or like groups, but like I didn't really buy any like specific.
Marshmello released an album called Joy Time 2 this year that I thought was really fun to listen to.
Was he the guy who was the American Warrior or whatever? He beat that thing, or
the
oh
American
my god,
Ninja
that guy's
Warrior
a badass. He's a badass. I saw that and I was like,
he was on American Ninja Warrior.
He beat it.
He ran the course, and he ran a leg of the course, and
but he beat it, right? I don't know how that show. Yeah.
Wow.
It was incredible. He had his mask on and everything, man.
That's crazy.
Like his little marshmallow head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What about books? I mean, I don't have anything because I'm not much of a book reader, but I know the rest of you are. So, do you guys have any books? Recommend those?
The one book I would recommend people read, it's called Warlight. And Michael, I don't know. I'm going to butcher the last name, but it's Ondaatje. So Ondaatje, maybe something like that. But the name is Warlight, all one word. And it's a story of a brother and sister who go to get left behind in London when their parents moved to Singapore. And they get kind of left. It's like right after World War II, and they get left in the care of these kind of shady characters. And then the mom returns without the dad, and there's no real explanation. But the whole time the kids are there, you don't know if the people talking to the children are reliable narrators or not. Like it's one of those things like who's hiding something, what's going on? Are these guys criminals? Like what were they doing during the war? Like there's a lot of weird things. And then the book moves to a later point in the life where the guy is no longer a child and he's being able to put a lot of the pieces together, looking back on those times as an adult. And it's a really good journey. It's a great story that just carries you all the way through. It's not very long, but it is a novel that is absolutely worth reading because it plays with what you know the whole time, and it's just beautifully well written. I can't recommend it enough. It's really, really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
No, I have not read any books this year. I've been a bad boy.
Shannon and I are not fans of the literature. We're not cultured.
Never meet it. Never meet it. Like no matter what, it's fine, man. It's something that it's like you need to. I do it at the gym. Like I listen to music and I read books, like ebooks and stuff. So and then what's it called? Audiobooks help a lot too. Whenever I'm like, okay, I don't want to listen to a podcast today or music, I'll listen to an audiobook. So that helps speed up the process a good bit. But these 2 books I actually read and they were pretty solid. One actually came out this year. It's called Have Dog Will Travel. And it's a piece of nonfiction about like a legally blind poet and his experience obtaining a seeing eye dog late in life. So he basically lived his entire life as a blind man and then, more or less blind, having a substantially hard time seeing, and then meeting and receiving this seeing eye dog and this emotional like pal or whatever who basically improves his life for the better and makes it substantially different. So that was a great book, very fun and very fast to read. And then Pachinko, which actually came out in 2017, and it's I learned more about like more modern Korean Japanese history than I ever learned in grade school reading this book. It's like the Korean experience in South Korea and Japan from the early 1900s all the way to the late 1900s. And it's like, quote, an epic saga of a Korean family told over 4 generations. And it was focused primarily, one of the overriding themes was like all about preconceived notions and our perceptions of other people, particularly when it comes to groups of people like races or genders or people of a certain sexuality. And it was one of the best books I've ever read. And it wasn't nonfiction. It was a fictitious tale, but it was based on real events, and it really hit me hard. So I needed a tearjerker.
Was there a pachinko machine in it at all?
Yes, absolutely. It's like heavily integrated in the story.
I thought this was like the untold story of like the game from the game from The Price is Right, where they drop the fucking Plinko is what I was thinking.
Oh, you were thinking about okay. No. And like the Korean experience
in my head where they dropped the Plinko chip down and everything.
What do Koreans know about Plinko?
Dude, yeah, I was gonna say my grandpa brought a pachinko machine back from Korea from when he was stationed over there in the Korean War, and we still have that. We still play it every once in a while at my grandma's house. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, we my dad and I, when we went to Japan, we frequented a pachinko parlor. It's intense, man. The cigarette smell for me is
games.
Hot new Konami pachinko, covered in cigarette smoke and old wheezing men drinking Sapporo. Yeah. Oh God, that was fun. I gotta go back to Japan.
Yeah, I need to go too.
Dude, go.
Yeah, I definitely want to. Maybe
2019.
Yeah, it's my New Year's resolution.
It's your year.
Fuck everyone, I'm going to Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and get out of here then, because we have been recording for almost 3 hours. So just in closing, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at That Pixel Life, and don't forget to join that Facebook group as well. You can get it on our website, or you can just search That Pixel Life on Facebook. Just find us there and come join in the discussion with us. If you guys have a second and you're on iTunes or an Apple device, if you could please drop us a review, that would really help. That'd be very beneficial to us. It gets more eyes on us. So thank you for that, for all the people who have or will do that for us. And also just big thanks to Elena, for the journey here this year and being with us. And I know this is not the last we'll see of her, but just good luck to you. And yeah.
Thank you, sir. Like I said earlier, I'll definitely be around. You'll see me in those forums, man. I'm still going to be there. And I'm interested in, maybe writing a little bit. So we can talk about that. I'm interested.
Awesome. Anybody have any words of wisdom or anything to close by for 2018 to put behind us?
I want to see everybody's top 10 lists. I want to talk about it. Come to me. Let's fight about it. Let's fight about it.
Anyone else?
Add me on Twitter because I don't have enough followers.
Going into 2019 with a higher follower count. What's up, Schmore? Give me Schmore. Yeah. What's your at, bro?
I think that's what it is. I think it's I don't know. I gotta find it. Let me see. I don't know.
He doesn't even know.
I've got it memorized. Nothing. I think it's like Schmore 031. Hold on. What is it?
I don't know.
It's SAMOORE0317.
Wow, I have his at memorized. That's great. I know his at and he doesn't. All right, if we're plugging, y'all follow me at Honey Baked Tella. I know my at. At me. Wait, yeah, at me.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks to everyone for joining us this week.
I think Zach had something to say.
Oh, do you?
Are we gonna plug Zach's Twitter?
Yeah. Give me at Zackle, ZAKAL. No, it's
That's like the band Jackal, but with a Z.
Yep. And no C, but
They had a K in there, didn't they?
Yeah,
but they didn't have a C.
Oh,
I don't have a C.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's basically the same thing, just without the J.
Sure. And marathons are 3 miles.
We go too long.
I was just gonna say, 2018 was a hard year for a lot of people. I know personally, and also in the world, 2018 did not handle itself with a lot of decorum. And 2019 can be a year to forgive and forget and move past and make things better for you. And when you do that, you'll make things better for everyone else. So it can be hard to put down heavy shit and move on. But from my own personal experience, carrying that shit around you just gets tiring. To drop it and move on and make things better for yourself and then for everyone else.
It'll hurt a lot less carrying that weight on your shoulders.
Yep. That would be my advice for anyone moving forward into the new year. Just drop that shit. You don't need it and keep going.
And everyone else is like, follow me on Twitter.
I know, right? Damn it, Zach.
All right. Well, thanks you for everyone. Thank you everyone for joining us this week. Have an amazing new year. Meet those resolutions and look forward to a lot of fun from us in 2019. So have a great weekend. See you next time and peace.
Later.
Bye. Happy New Year.